you're really putting some hard thought into figuring out what Kerbal needs to, you know, bring KSP1 to its maximum potential. Yeah, no, it's, you know what? Like, I'll just go out right and say it, dude. Thank you. Seriously. I remember, you know, 5 years ago, we would go literally years without a patch. Literally years. Without a patch, without a peep from the developers, nothing. And that's not to say that the game was bad or anything, blah, blah. Like, I'm not trying to badmouth anyone. It's just, it's really cool to see Kerbal get the love it deserves. That's all. And it really shows, like, with the updates, dudes, it shows that you guys are doing your homework. With just the stuff that's being added, even though it's just little quality of life things here and there, texture revamps here and there, it tells me that you guys give a crap. Like, that's it. Glad you're enjoying it. Glad you're enjoying it. There's some good stuff coming. I think I can say that we haven't shown the best stuff yet, at least not my favorite things in the patch. What patch? Crafter, we're talking about the 1.12 update. We don't have an ETA on when it's being released, but everything in this patch has been really cool. My favorite thing, Crafter, is ground anchors. So a Kerbal can go and place a ground anchor, and it's like a little plate, and it screws itself into the ground, and it doesn't move. And in Kerbal construction, you have a node attachment point to it, and you can build off of your ground anchor. Now, don't get me wrong, in 1.11.1 or .2, the developers added a passive function to keep vessels from moving around. There's a passive function to make the pads not move, like in my case, make the launch pads not move as much. They still move from shifting from docking and vessel hierarchy. That does happen. There's really not much you can do about that, but that combined with the ground anchors will really, I mean, dude, we could build bases at the rim of a crater, like a stilt base, or like landing pads at the rim of a crater, right? And have the landing pad be hanging off the edge, and the ground anchors will hold that pad in position. It's really, really cool. Like, dude, we could build cities. We could build cities on the moon and stuff. It's pretty interesting. Now I want to know what else is in the patch. We'll get updates, Kem. Do you have any idea how SpaceX will stack the last OLIT segment, as they will be very high? Yeah, Gene. Yeah, of course. The crane, the power boom crane. So the Lever 11350. Here, we could start Space News. We'll go right into there. You could recreate Baikonur. Yeah, you could do a lot of stuff. Yeah, exactly, Panta. Yeah, you could build a freaking launch site into the side of a hill. And then with the hydraulics pushing into the ground, you don't have to worry about hydraulic drift like with the transporter erector pad, and you could use that as a leveling system. Frick you. Frick you. Frick you, Panta, for putting that idea in my head. I hate you. I don't. That's a really cool idea. But also, damn it, man. Fuel hoses. You need fuel hoses. Yeah, that... John, that might be a little bit difficult. But once again, I said that same vessel interaction would be difficult. Yep. And I ended up eating my words on that one. Literally, the creative director and lead designer for KSP said, oh yeah, we can't make that? Well, here, EJ, how about you shut up? I'm like, this is awkward. Okay, I got told, but I don't know if having two vessels interact with each other other than docking is something that you can do with how KSP's made. I don't know. I don't know for sure. Space News. Oh my goodness, guys. Okay. Long story short, with the crane question at Boca Chica, Gene, they can reconfigure the crane. That power boom crane is a lattice crawler crane. A lattice crawler crane is a nice way of saying it's a Lego kit. Seriously, those things can be reconfigured. That isn't a single configuration for that crane. BN2 is ready for cryo testing. Holy crap, dudes. Also, we almost lost ingenuity. Those freaking pictures, though. Some space news from Canada for you later. We need to go into crawler cranes right here. So, Jock, check this out. And this is why I like going on a deep dive. Like, I went on a huge dive into cranes because lattice crawler cranes power the freaking world. Without these things, dude, civilization wouldn't exist as the way that it does. It's like diesel engines, man. Our society runs on diesel engines. And don't get me wrong, we might be able to change that in some way down the road, but yeah, it's one of those backbone things that people really don't think about. See that thing? The 11350 with the power boom? That's the crane that SpaceX is using right now. It's not the exact crane, but it's the same type. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. We've watched this video before. Here it is installing a gearbox for a wind turbine. That's the crane that SpaceX is using to build the launch tower. It's understandable that it's hard to know what's difficult and easy to build in a game. Having fuel move between two vessels isn't that hard. Having flexible lines between two vessels is very, very difficult. Yeah, because you're getting into simulation rigging, Max, right? See, I think I can speak to this, but if I'm not in the ballpark at all, and I'll get back to the crane thing in a second. If I'm not in the ballpark at all, you tell me. Now, okay, so if someone told me to do that, if I was a 3D modeler, and keep in mind, my 3D modeling education is from 2008, and the technology does change, like, a lot. Real-time ray tracing was a pipe dream when I went to school. Now it's just no big deal, right? So it would have to be a cloth simulation. But you'd have to paint weights on the cloth sim to get it to work right. And I mean, painting weights and having joints on a hose is a real big pain in the butt, because how many joints do you put in, right? Like, how many? It's a rigged piece of equipment. How long is the thing? You know what I mean? How many joints do you add? And then you got to do a cloth simulation, right? Because, well, actually, I don't think you have to do a cloth sim. Now that I'm thinking about it, you could just rig and paint weights, but the swash and stretch would be insane. Oh, that would suck. That would suck so much, dude. And now, this isn't even talking about getting the logic of getting one of those things to move. You'd need to paint weights on the thing, and oh, geez, how would the Kerbal move the ends of it around? And it would be sliding over the surface, right? How would it collide with another vessel? What happens when it does collide with another vessel? Oh, that's a rabbit hole. That's a big rabbit hole. The simulation of a flexible line is a tough but solvable problem. As you said, it's a spring system. The bigger issue is KSP's floating origin system. Means we can't use floating origin system means we can't use any of the out of the box solvers. Yeah, okay. Cliff notes of what I walked in on. Building Smuckers and Kerbal, basically taking a fuel hose, attaching it to one ship, and moving it to another. Max, do you think... Alright, I'm just playing in an idea. And once again, there's probably 1,000 different ways, because it's engineering after all. If it's one thing that I'm learning about software engineering, it's kind of like aerospace engineering in that there's not a like one way to solve a problem. There's a bunch of different ways to solve that problem, but which one is the one that's going to take the least amount of time to do and will get you the best yield, right? Like that's I'm pretty sure there's a correlation there, but I digress. So Max, okay, let me brainstorm this for a second. How about if you like an umbilical, right? So you have an umbilical on one craft, right? And you have an umbilical and you place it basically like a docking port, right? And then on another craft, you have the same umbilical, right? And then the Kerbal would have to carry a hose in the backpack, in their backpack, right? And the hose could be in segments or something, right? And then in Kerbal construction, you node attached to the umbilical, right? And then you'd have to have the whole painted weight thing with the deformers or the rigging system, right? But if you keep the segments small, that shouldn't be too hard to do. Now, see, now here's another thing. This is what game designers do, guys. So, okay, you put one hose on, and now the end of the hose is just dangling. What happens when you attach another piece to it? Does the hose clip right through the ground? Because you're taking a part that's in a backpack that's not being simulated, and now you're simulating it. How does that work? So you'd have to be able to basically put the hose would have to go down on the ground, and then you attach the hose to it. And now what's stopping the hose from just clipping through the ground? You would have to basically, physics would have to reload every time you put that hose down in order to get it to act like a freaking hose, right? Because you're changing the structure of it. Oh boy. I mean, it would have to work kind of like docking. It would have to work like docking ports. And even then, once you get it to the other umbilical, now what? A Kerbal can't pick it up and attach it, right? Like, do you use docking port magnetization? Like, is that how it works? Like, how do we get this done? Yeah, as one of our lead developers always said, the problem isn't impossible. The problem is, can we solve it in the time we have? Yeah. I mean, Max, I'm turning this over in my head, dude. Like, and keep in mind, the software stuff might as well be Japanese to me. I understand some of it, but nowhere near fluent. But I know from the, I guess, front end, like doing the modeling and the umbilicals and stuff, even that's going to take a while, and that's a lot of setup. It's a lot of setup. It's not impossible, but it's a lot of setup. It's all doable. It's what happens when those craft are moving that has problems. We can't avoid that problem because we would have craft on orbit. Floating origin means the reference transform is moving all the time too. So stuff that's easy, it's easy if you have a flat unmoving world like normal Unity or Unreal. So stuff that's easy if you have a flat unmoving world like a normal Unity or Unreal level gets harder. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, your origin point is moving in real time. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Oh, man, that's giving me a headache. Yeah, how do you make that work in oh, man. That's not ground up rework, but it's almost ground up rework. Also, here's some cool pictures. Yeah, I gotta notice. Yeah, dude. I'm so hyped for SLS, dude. Alright, we gotta, guys, I'm not gonna lie to you. I gotta cut out some of the space news, man. So, here, let's get to it and go. So, yeah, going back to the crane question, and I said I would get back to it. The crane is reconfigurable. You can make it taller. If we just go back over here, I can show you. So like the power boom, you can change the length of the power boom if you want. And the power boom is designed to hold up more things. It's designed for lifting heavier things. You can change the length of the power boom. You can change the jib. You can change the main boom. You can change the derricks. There's all different types of things that you can reconfigure on a crane. There's tons of different configurations for this stuff. You can have a short crane like this with a derrick, and a crane like this would be good for lifting heavy stuff around short distances. The power boom configuration that SpaceX has with that 11350 Libre crane is for moving heavy stuff, really heavy stuff, a long distance, like moving those service segments up on top of the tower. Isn't SLS ahead of schedule somehow? Yes. The origin is center of the sun. Kinematic transforms get you whatever reference frame you want. Some just take more work than others. Yeah, one of them. Kind of your fault for missing space 2 days in a row now. I expect a new SLS DLC for KSP-1 besides the current NASA DLC. Oh, jeez. Alright. So, yeah, we'll check out the Starship video in a second, guys. I'm going to transfer up these links here. We could start with SLS news. I haven't read the Sls article yet. Phil Sls over at NASA Spaceflight has a new article. Long story short, guys, SLS is up on the timeline. And even somebody that's been a major advocate of the SLS program basically since it started, and Constellation before that, yeah, that was a weird thing to say. Keep in mind, fellas, that's a weird thing to say for any space program. They're up on the timeline right now, which is pretty dang cool. Then there's the Russian news. I'll show you pictures of the forward join, guys. They straight up, NASA should have the core stage 2 finished by the end of the year. The second SLS core stage should be ready to go. Seriously. And that thing will move out to, I mean, I'm not sure. I don't think they need to test it. I think it's right from Michoud to KSC. No need for the static test. No need for a green run, even though I think they should, but that's just me. I mean, NASA disagrees with me, because they got to convert the B2 test stand to the EUS, but that's another story. But yeah, here, I have some pictures cooked up here. Let me just make sure. All right, we got that. I got the forward join picture. Yep, there we go. I'll put that right after the Russian news. And I'm on SLS right now, so. Okay, cool. Did you see last? Speaking of SLS, Artemis 1 was added to the launch schedule on their site. On NASA's website. Let me take a look. Up on the timeline means ahead of schedule. Yes, LQ2. Yeah, so, guys, I'll be honest with you. I said this during the green run. After the second green run test, SLS is going to start moving real fast. I always say that these space flight programs always take some time to build up. And I'm not, like I got my SLS shirt on today. That was by accident. They're up on their current timetable, Chem, so keep in mind, cumulatively, they're still a little ways behind, and by a little ways, I mean a good deal, but that's not entirely their fault. These timelines a spaceflight program takes a second to get going. Think about the Apollo program. President Kennedy in 1961 said, we're going to go to the moon. All right, the U.S. had barely launched one person into space on a suborbital flight. All right, they didn't just, in 1962, land on the moon. It took a little bit. It took a little bit of time. It took 8 years. But by 1968, right, they started operating the Saturn V on basically two times a year launch cadence, and the Apollo program was in full swing by 1970, right? Fully operational in 68, end of 68, if you really want to know. And 1969, 70, 71, 72, Apollo missions were going pretty much as planned. They were launching the Saturn V 2 to 3 times a year, give or take. Yeah, everything was real good. These things take time, but once you get over the hump, 1968 was the hump for the Apollo program, okay? The reason why was two principal things. 1968 was when the Block 2 Command Service Module first flew on Apollo 7, if I'm remembering right. And then Saturn V first flew with people BLEO, Beyond Low Earth Orbit, in December of 1968. That was it. Once you were good there, you're good. You're good to go. And then it was just routine missions from there. Not routine, because Apollo 13 was anything but you get the idea. These space programs take time to build momentum. It's like a steam engine. When you start a steam engine, you don't just flip, oh, okay, steam engine is on now, let's go. No, you have to stoke the firebox. You have to heat up the water. The water has to turn to steam. You have to build boiler pressure, and then you start going. All right? It takes time. There's a startup sequence to it. It takes time. SLS, after the green run, that was the hump. I'm telling you, and this is what I said during the green run. Stuff with SLS is going to start happening a lot faster than what you're used to. Stuff is starting to go a lot quicker. The green run was the last bit of the puzzle to get that steam engine going. You know what I mean? Didn't the Saturn V stop because of money? Yes and no, Velo. I mean, the biggest thing was that, and I mean, there were a lot of things. Canceling a space program or changing the space program goals never happens because of one singular event. It's always a couple of things here and there. The Apollo program happened for a number of reasons. One of the reasons that a lot of people say is because President Nixon didn't like President Kennedy because he lost. Richard Nixon ran for president in 1960 and lost to Kennedy in a very close race. And he resented Kennedy, he didn't like him. So he canceled his spaceflight program and replaced it with the space shuttle, his own. And not a bad idea. I like the shuttle. I think the Saturn V would have been more useful. But then again, if we were launching the shuttle every week as planned, the shuttle could have been way more useful, but I'm not going to get into that. There was also the Vietnam War going on, and big government spending at the time really was kind of frowned upon because we were using a lot of money to curtail communism in Southeast Asia, right? Or at least that's what they said, right? And then also the Soviets canceled their lunar program in 1974. They canceled it. So all those events kind of coalesced in the early 70s, coupled with a fuel crisis. Yeah, it's never one thing. They cited money as the reason, but the truth of the matter is that everyone says that Apollo isn't sustainable, and I fundamentally disagree with that statement. The reason why Apollo carried a heavy price tag is because we literally made something from nothing. When NASA started in 1958, the most we knew about rocketry was sending a missile up with a bomb and having it come back down. In just a decade, we went from a Redstone missile, which basically had a mechanical computer, like one of those things going back and forth in it, that was communicating. And keep in mind, early ICBMs and early intermediate range ballistic missiles, they couldn't put the computer on the rocket. What they did was they put an antenna on the rocket, and the computer was down in the blockhouse, and the rocket would communicate with the blockhouse, and the computer would be in mission control, and it would be the size of an office building. Okay? Like, we went from that to a full digital guidance computer system in less than a decade. So 1958 is when NASA started, and missiles were basically a bunch of bells and whistles, like a Rube Goldberg machine inside, for real, to modern rocketry as we know it with a digital guidance computer and going to the moon. That's a huge stretch. That's expensive. NASA could do that right now, but it'd be expensive. We can't do that, right? Because, just as quickly as the Apollo program came in, it left, right? There's a lot of events that coalesced to kind of make it leave, right? To cancel it. But there was also a set of events that made it happen, right? The space race. Primarily the 1957 geophysical year is a big reason for, why NASA exists. And then obviously Yuri Gagarin's flight and Sputnik, same thing. But it carries a huge price tag, but that doesn't mean, like, if anything, we wasted more money by canceling it. I honestly think for the price that we used to develop the space shuttle, if we just kept operating the Saturn V, launching it 1 to 2 times a year, and having a Skylab space station up there and launching Saturn 1Bs, NASA's budget could have probably ended up going down with more capability. Why and why is that? Well, Velo, the reason is because flying a rocket is the most inexpensive part of rockets. Flying a rocket is the inexpensive part. Building it is the complicated part. Designing it is the most complicated part, right? I did, Bum. Yeah. Is it possible for Artemis to be canceled then? Nixon got a legacy, all right. Oh, is that what you call that? Yeah, sure. Cheers. No, Velo, at this particular juncture in time, and keep in mind anything can happen, right? Yeah, it could, but I don't think it is. I was a little bit worried, especially with the change in political climate that happened over the course of the last year. Don't talk about it. You know what I mean. I was a little bit worried. But that doesn't seem to be what's going on. That does not seem to be what's going on. If anything, just like this president, just like the last one, is basically continuing and elaborating. So 2 presidents ago, they started, the SLS program, right? And kind of didn't really have any goals, but it was a decent enough foundation. The last president took that and used it as a springboard to start the Artemis program, and now this one is using the Artemis program as a springboard to keep going further into space. Yeah, I mean, there's no like, us versus them horse crap with spaceflight. That's something I've noticed. I mean, there was in 2009, and I think we learned our lesson from that one. But yeah, Velo, we're in the clear. We're pretty damn okay. Let's see what happens with HLS, but we're pretty dang in the clear. I'm pretty happy with what I've seen right now. Yeah, it's not the worst. Velo, believe me, if I see something that's a red flag, I will tell you. I don't see anything in particular that is really a red flag at this time. Like, I don't see any, like, oh gosh, we should start panicking, they're planning on canceling this. I haven't seen anything like that. If anything, I've seen expansion of the program. Now, is it expanding at the rate that it would be going at if, let's just say, if Jim was still there? Hard to say. Because, the reason why I chose the term political climate changing is because it's not just the executive branch that's changed. The legislative branch have changed as well, right? And so did the judicial branch, but the judicial branch doesn't really have a lot to do with NASA, in at least day-to-day operations, right? They're not controlling the purse strings like the House and the Senate does. So, Velo, just in case you don't know, we have the executive branch, which is the guy in the White House, right? And then you have the House of Representatives, which is part of the legislative branch of the U.S. There's 2 houses, so it's kind of like House of Commons, House of Lords thing, Velo, if I'm remembering you from the UK. It's kind of like that, but it's kind of a little bit different. There's the House of Representatives, which draft up the legislation, and they control the purse strings. So they draft it up and they fund things. The House is very important for NASA. It's very important to have support for a space program in the House of Representatives. That's super important. That's why I made us watch the House Appropriations Committee the other day with Bill. I made us watch it, even though I'm sure people didn't want to hear it. It's super important. And then, once they draft up legislation, it'll go to the Senate, and the Senate will vote on whether to sign it into law. From there, the judiciary branch, the Supreme Court, which is a tiered system of courts. The Supreme Court is the highest law in the land, and then there's districts of courts underneath that in kind of a pyramid structure going all the way down to your local court in the U.S., in your local county, right? They interpret the law. So, and then the executive branch kind of oversees everything. Think of the executive branch kind of like a project manager almost. Kind of like that. So the executive branch and the House and the Senate are really important for NASA. First of all, first and foremost, NASA's policy, their goals, are denoted by the executive branch. So the president says what NASA should be doing. That's first and foremost. If you have the support of the executive branch, it's a little bit easier to get things done than if you don't. An example would be during Constellation. Constellation did not have support from the president, but it had support from Congress, and we ended up getting SLS instead as kind of a compromise between those two things. You've heard me talk about this. Canceling Constellation was a mistake. Everybody knows that. It's not even worth talking about. But Velo, I'll tell you, this time around, from what I've seen from the House Appropriations Committee and for what I've seen from the White House's point man at NASA, Bill, right? Bill is there representing the policy of the executive branch. That's what the NASA administrator does. They're kind of the liaison to the president or the executive branch about what NASA is doing and how they're going about doing the will of what the executive branch wants. From what I've seen from Bill, it's very much seems like they're not doing that. If anything, they're expanding it. I mean, they're using basically the stuff that Jim laid out as a springboard to go further, which is really cool. It's really cool to see no bull crap, you know? I'll be honest with you. It's really nice, you know? They're all thieves and liars. Yeah, I mean, Farm, okay, you want me to be candid with you? Everybody likes NASA because NASA makes people money. So, like, if you want me to reduce it to its base element, that's what's going on. Okay? Like, I like the way that I said it. I think it's a little bit more professional, but if you don't want a fluff response, right? Everyone makes money. NASA is a huge revenue generator for any representative in their district. Like NASA facilities can, I mean, you're bringing jobs to your district, but not only you're bringing jobs, you're bringing STEM. You're bringing STEM to your congressional district. This is why it's so difficult to kill NASA in any way, shape, or form. It's fragmented all over the U.S., and that's done on purpose because they knew that ain't nobody gonna complain if your constituents that you represent are a bunch of you brought a NASA design center and it literally breathes life into your city. All those people that come to that NASA design center that work there, they need places to stay. They need supermarkets to freaking go and shop at. They need schools. They need infrastructure to support this. This is why people vehemently fight for NASA. So it's kind of funny because it's not like us versus Rule 8 people in that regard. We pit them against each other for our interests, which I think is hilarious. I think it's funny. It's like, but yeah, I mean, ain't nobody gonna complain when you have a NASA district when you have a NASA center in your district, man. And this is why people fight for it. Laughs in Constellation Cancellation. Well, Swishio, like I said, Congress supported the Constellation program. The House and the Senate both supported Constellation and wanted it to keep going. Bill Nelson himself, the guy that runs NASA now, Bill Nelson was super opposed to canceling Constellation. That guy was firing on all cylinders to try and keep Constellation going, and his fight ended up getting us SLS. I mean, he was he was like the head of the committee to try and keep the Constellation program going. But once again, that's what happens when the executive branch doesn't, has a different idea or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, once again, I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody. What happened. It's in the past. Point is that right now, dudes, we're making some pretty damn good progress here. This is the forward join on core stage 2 here down at Michoud. in Louisiana. This is the second core stage for SLS. The second one is being made, and it's being made at a very, very fast rate of speed. The second core stage for SLS will be ready by the end of this year. Oh, absolutely. I can tell you just by looking at it. There's engineers putting the that's the forward skirt right there. So that's your LOX vent line right there. I'm not sure what that is. Not 100% on that one. Yeah, good mood. Once again, I'm not trying to... It's so... Dude, it's so easy to point your finger at one person and say, that's the person responsible for this. This is the person... You know good and well it's way more complicated than that. It always is. And that's something that people have to understand. All these people whining about stuff on Twitter, I mean, the HLS thing, take it for its... Dude, how many people did this whole expansion of the HLS program to $10 billion over 5 years? How many people rang the alarm bells and said, this is ridiculous, this is stupid? How many of those people really understand what this is? The ignorance that people show and their want to weigh in on a subject that they really don't know anything about is kind of alarming. And don't get me wrong, I weigh in on space stuff all the time, but I tell you that I'm guessing, and I also don't try to sit here and pretend to be an engineer. I mean, part of aerospace engineering and engineering in general, something that I've learned is that you need to be smart enough to know what you're talking about, but you also need to be smart enough to acknowledge that you know nothing. You're not an expert, okay? I'm not an expert. I'm not an engineer. But I'll try my hardest to get there, you know? I'll try my hardest to give you the right information, you know, as much as I can. But, if anything, you know, it shows that it's always more complicated than it is. What I'm trying to say is that most people nowadays don't think it be like it is, but it do. Okay? They don't think it be like it is, but it do. Yeah, Bandit. Yeah, I mean, there's that. I feel like social media enables that behavior out of convenience. One thing that I remind myself, James, with social media is that you ever been to like a car show or you ever been in the mall and people are window shopping and you're walking by somebody and somebody walks by a store, or you're at an auto show and somebody walks by a car and says, I don't like that. I think that car looks stupid. Or, you know, if you're in the mall, you see like some women shopping for clothes or whatever, or some guys shopping for clothes, it doesn't matter. You feel like, wow, that dress looks so stupid. Or wow, that suit's dumb. Wow, those shorts are so stupid. You know, it's just people's kind of passive thoughts. You know they don't mean it. Like, they wouldn't consciously make an effort to go into that store and tell the person behind the desk at that store that their window display is dumb, right? It's just a passing thought. And I think you're right with, you know, the convenience of it. With the convenience of it, you're hearing people's unfiltered thought, and it's the most candid that you can get with people. So what you're hearing is just people's passive, visceral reactions to things, which is fine. Like, you have to understand that. You have to understand that the person that's getting crazed and outraged over something on Twitter, it's just their kind of visceral reaction. Just like if you were driving down the street and you saw a car that was painted like neon green, you'd be like, what the hell? I mean, some cars can rock neon green. Some cars really can't. Like, if it's painted like bright chroma green, you'd be like, Miss Slippy's car is green, right? It's that. That's what you're hearing. You're just hearing people's visceral thoughts about things. It's just, shouldn't really pay it any mind. And that's what I mean about when you go on social media. Don't become part of the zoo, all right? Nobody has to hear your visceral thoughts. You don't have to weigh in on everything, you know? Can't deal with it. I'm full boomer now. No, enraged. I hear you. I just, whenever I go on social media, I have to tell myself that that's what's going on. It's the people that are outraged about ridiculous things, it's like, dude, humans are much more complicated than just black and white, man. But for some reason, our natural impulse is to compartmentalize it like that, but I don't know, man. I don't know. It's breaking into some psych stuff that I really don't understand. What do we have for the news today? Yeah, a bunch of good stuff. So, yeah, don't pay it any mind, I suppose. Actually, you know what's funny? Like, I like going on there. And I like, dude, I get some pretty... This is going to sound so screwed up. It's going to sound so stupid. I get some pretty good validation from going on there and reading what people have to say and knowing that they have no idea what they're saying. Like, it... Not because I'm like, wow, this person's so dumb, I'm so much smarter than them. It's not because of that. It's because that tells me that the type of content that I tailor here on stream is well thought out and well conceived thought. It's not a visceral reaction to things. You know? If anything, seeing stuff like that drives me to learn more and do better and not be like that, you know? Don't get me wrong, I'm still human. Don't get me wrong, I'm still human. I make mistakes. I have visceral reactions to things, and sometimes I say things that I don't mean. We're imperfect. What do you want? Like, I'm not a freaking robot, right? Or am I? Here, check out this other forward join shot. Ivath, 35-month resub. What exactly is the it in this case? I don't know. Smock, this is a little bit of a deep conversation. If you came in at the end of it, yeah, it's best not to get caught up to speed. Let's just change the subject. It's just one of those things that we were talking about, you know. Here's the forward join on core stage 2. We got some really good pictures coming from NASA. All right. So that's the LOX vent line, gaseous oxygen vent line. It's going to go into the tap right on the top of the liquid oxygen tank right here. I'm not sure what that one is for. Actually, wait, why would this be a liquid oxygen vent line in the forward skirt? Yeah, Rizik, there you go. Hey, Livid. I saw your new VOD channel. Are you able to upload the space news, or you can't because of copyright? Livid, I've been holding off on the space news just because, like, okay, the straight reason is because it's NASA spaceflight stuff. And I'm not... Guys, I could probably talk to them and probably get away with it. I want you to go to their YouTube channel, and I don't want to compete with them on YouTube with their own content. That seems like a very unethical thing to do, and I can't really say why. Like, I can't really articulate why that's an unethical thing to do, because I'm not doing that. Yeah, so the space news doesn't... I've said basically hold off on all space news, and if you want the space news, just stick with the Twitch VODs for now. I mean, dude, stuff's getting claimed left and right, dude. My guitar playing gets claimed. It gets picked up on the auto claiming feature. I'm like, really? My guitar playing? I'm a terrible guitar player. How is that getting picked up? Yeah, Kamir. Yeah. That's a compliment, though? No, it's not. I'm a terrible guitar player. On YouTube, Josh. I don't know, Kamir. That's what Drummer was telling me. He's telling me that my guitar covers are getting claimed, and I'm just like, how is that even possible? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Drummer made a system where he basically automatically cuts the video and uploads it, which is pretty cool. So we'll just keep rolling with it. I'll demonetize the videos. I don't really care. Like, it's good to have the VODs, and it's good to have them on the internet somewhere to see. I'm more concerned about that so people can go back and watch them. Oh, yeah. Sneaky. Oh, it's ridiculous. No, Kyron, not right now. I'll be honest, guys. Like, YouTube is such a big demographic. It's getting to a point where you almost can't not have a YouTube. So, like, something I've been kind of... We can talk about this later, after we're done with Kerbal. Something I've been toying around in my mind is doing YouTube content, but... that only means less time streaming to me, so I don't know if that's necessarily worth it. But then again, the YouTube demographic is huge. And that could bring more people to Twitch, you know? So you should counterclaim that stuff. Smock, I'm dealing with it. Don't worry. I know this game. It's... I agree, Blueland. I do want to do the advanced Kerbal tutorial stuff. Yeah. The advanced Kerbal tutorials, like getting into root hierarchy and how that all works, and building strength, like building stuff strong in KSP versus building stuff that's designed to flex, and how that all works. I haven't seen anything like that, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen any updated tutorials. No one's updating their Kerbal tutorials on YouTube, which is really interesting. Nobody's made like a tutorial for 1.11. Nothing. No tutorial vids anywhere. Like, if nobody's gonna jump on that, I'll jump on that. It would be massive if you could publish space news on YouTube even without NSF materials. Yeah, Kamer, the thing is that somebody would have to go in and manually cut the videos up, and I don't want to waste someone's time with that, because I can't give them, like, I can't pay them. My margins aren't good enough to pay them. So that means either I have to go in and cut and edit the videos myself, which I can do. But even if I do that, that's less time away from streaming. That's less time away from doing things, from doing all the side projects that I work on. Do I really want to do that? No, thank you. So this is coming. The next bit of news here is coming from NASA themselves here. Let's see what we got. I think you should just do stream highlights. Take a stream, drop it into 10-minute videos. It would be nice and easy to catch up on missed streams or to draw attention to the stream. Yeah, Canadian. Even cutting up a 10-minute video like that, dude, that would take about an hour a day. That's 1 hour less. That's less time for me. That's 1 hour less of streaming. Let's be real. It would either cut into my sleep schedule or cut into my streaming schedule. And I'm not sure if I'm... It's not that I'm not... it's not that I'm not sure if I can do that. It's just that... I don't know. That's an extra hour I could be streaming, you know, and talking with people live, which is my pay dirt. You know what I mean? I don't know. See goalies last. Okay. It's time. Oh, the Octo Grabber. Nice, dude. Yeah, total staples. I mean, that would be hard. That's a lot of time to put together. I'd rather focus on doing mission mode stuff with the deadlines and everything. But anyway, let's keep going. So this is coming from NASA themselves. Surviving an in-flight anomaly. What happened on Ingenuity's 6th flight? On the 91st Martian day, or SOL, of NASA's 2020 Perseverance rover mission, the Ingenuity Mars helicopter performed its 6th flight. The flight was designed to expand the flight envelope and demonstrate aerial imaging capabilities by taking stereo images of a region of interest to the west. Ingenuity was commanded to climb to an altitude of 33 feet before translating 492 feet, or 150 meters, 10 meters in altitude, to the southwest at a ground speed of 9 miles an hour, about 4 meters per second. At that point, it was to translate 49 feet, or about 15 meters, to the south while taking images towards the west, then fly another 164 feet, 50 meters to the northeast and land. Telemetry from Flight 6 shows that the first 150 meter leg of the flight went off without a hitch, but towards the end of that leg, something happened. Ingenuity began adjusting its velocity and tilting back and forth in an oscillating pattern. This behavior persisted throughout the rest of the flight. Prior to landing safely, onboard sensors indicated that the rotorcraft encountered roll and pitch excursions of more than 20 degrees. Wow. Large control inputs and spikes in power consumption. Approximately 54 seconds into the flight, a glitch occurred in the pipeline of images being delivered by the navigation camera. The glitch caused a single image to be lost, but more importantly, it resulted in all navigation images being delivered with inaccurate timestamps. From this point on, Each time the navigation algorithm performed a correction based on a navigation image, it was operating on the basis of incorrect information about when the image was taken. The resulting inconsistencies significantly degraded the information used to fly the helicopter, leading to estimates being constantly corrected to account for phantom errors. Large oscillations ensued. Despite encountering this anomaly, Ingenuity was able to maintain flight and land safely on the surface. Nice. Land safely on the surface within approximately 16 feet or 5 meters of the intended landing location. One reason it was able to do so is the considerable effort that has gone into ensuring that the helicopter's flight control system has ample safety margin. We designed Ingenuity to tolerate significant errors without becoming unstable, including errors in timing. This built-in margin was not fully needed in Ingenuity's previous flights because the vehicle's behavior was in family with our expectations, but this margin came to the rescue in Flight 6. Good engineering, man. The aliens were riding on it. Yep. So it did something kind of similar to the OFT, Orbital Flight Test. Timer wasn't synced. I'm going to switch over to dark mode, guys, so I don't look like a ghost over here. They didn't program it wrong. I mean, there was a glitch. I mean, that could have been a bit of information getting fried from radioactivity on the surface, and it caused the counter desync. I mean, that happens. The bits flip all the time in space. That's why you have to run flight computers. It's not exactly called this, but you have to run flight computers in what is essentially the aerospace equivalent of RAID. If you're running 3 hard drives in RAID, the information gets synced between those 3 hard drives, and 2 checks against 1 to make sure that all the information is synced up correctly. Aerospace computers work a lot like that. They work in redundancy like that. Basically in RAID, if you're a tech guy, you know what that means. To make sure that radiation doesn't fry the guidance computer. I don't think 1 bit can do that. Yeah, I guess. I mean, okay, so radiation spike fried 6 bits. I don't know, man. Alien pictures were deleted. Nice. Can we get some pictures of this? Like, oh yeah, that thing it's doing this. But this picture, though, you gotta be kidding me. That's so freaking cool. Well, the computer already had a redundancy built in to account for timing errors, which means they anticipated that this could happen. But holy crap, dude. Holy crap. Look at this. Look at this freaking picture. You gotta be kidding me. How high up is this? 30 feet? It's so hard to tell scale. Yeah, I know. I wish we had the rover in shot. I don't know if it's anywhere over here. I'd say 10 max. It's 33 feet, or about 10 meters, Everest. It's not 10 feet off the ground. It's 10 meters, not 10 feet. So this is about 30 feet off the ground, which is still crazy. That's a 3-story building. 10 feet, you'd say. I mean, yeah, I don't I don't know what you want to hear, brother. Like, you might be right. They could have been taking it on the way up, dude. Who knows? It's crazy. Landing this in Jezero crater was a really good idea. Look, you can clearly tell that water's been moving around. Water was moving around here at one point. Like, that looks like a riverbed. And this is like, dude, this is the weird thing about Mars, man. And I say this every time we look at a frigging picture of it. It's uncanny valley. It looks like Earth, but something ain't right here. That looks like Death Valley, only everything is like red. Death Valley doesn't necessarily look like this, but it looks like Earth, but it's not. The reason why everything gets so red on Mars is because all the metal that's in the like rocks and stuff oxidized. It basically rusted because climate change on the planet, or at least that's what they think. That's why Mars appears so red, because the surface is basically rust. It's iron oxide. Uncanny Death Valley, yeah, right? Hazanko, it looks like Death Valley, only it's red. Like, this looks like a color-corrected picture of Death Valley. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying... there's a helicopter flying around on Mars. I'm not trying to suggest that. What I'm suggesting is it looks so familiar, but it's also not at the same time. That's another planet. It's another freaking planet that we have a freaking helicopter flying around on. Great, Funky. How about you? They did helicopter on Mars. Have you looked to see what the Mars face is at all? Clayton, humans naturally look for shapes that are familiar to us, dude. The Mars face is just a rock that got a picture taken of it in the right lighting conditions, dude. It's nothing more. Yeah, I'm just a model for conspiracy theories, aren't I? Wait, they did helicopter on Mars? They did do helicopter on Mars. Like Amogus. Yep. I'm interested in Mars caves. Yeah, Colton. That'd be pretty cool. Can we, how about, Colton, how about I meet you at the middle and we, say lava tubes on the moon? Is that doable? Can we do that? Also, we have a dedicated area in the visual cortex which is specialized in recognizing faces. Yeah, we find shapes that are familiar to us, Kamer. Exactly, dude. They should keep doing helicopter on Mars. Hopefully it doesn't break. Ingenuity's still working. Yeah, stress test. Look at this freaking picture, man. This is 30 feet up in the air. What a shot. It blows my mind. I would really like to see some nice real-time footage that's been color corrected. Primarily in high def. That'd be really nice. Of this thing flying around and, like, you could see Perseverance, right? As a point of reference. I'm sure they'll do that at some point, you know? But if that's my pick. Kagdala. Ren, what's up, dude? Paradoilia. Yeah, Dish. Like I said, this looks really familiar. Like, this looks like a dried up riverbed. That looks like a dried up riverbed to me. But it's a dried up riverbed that's like, how many distances away? It's pretty just at least one distance away. Distances. Hey, Jay, the Spanish government has just announced that the AEE, Spanish Space Agency, has just announced the AEE, Spanish Space Agency. I'm not very confident with that, I'm not going to lie. And not many people were confident with NASA at the time, Turwin, so... Maybe 1.5 distances. Did it fly again? Yeah, it took its 6th flight, G-Funky. The reason we're talking about it is because the flight computer had a little bit of an anomaly, and it caused the thing to kind of go out of control for a second, but they had redundancies. JPL had redundancies on board to make sure that it didn't break. So it did fly around. And guys, this thing is moving. It's moving up, flying at about 30 feet and going. What was it? Like, this thing is freaking. Where's Dark Reader? Its flight plan was to climb to an altitude of 10 meters before translating about 500 feet or about 150 meters at a ground speed of 10 miles an hour, 4 meters per second. 10 miles an hour is 16 kph. Translate 15 meters to the south while taking images towards the west, and fly another 50 meters northeast and land. This thing's moving some pretty good distances, dudes. We've had an anomaly. They had to clear the area. I don't think there's much to clear, Vasia, but yeah. We have to secure the area? Raining down freaking fire? Yeah, is this a problem? I don't know. Yep. It was doing photogrammetry? Maybe, Gaw. What amazes me is that heat is the reason we can't fly it longer, not battery. Vacuum, man. Low pressure is a real big pain in the freaking butt, dude. Alright, anyway. Before we get into the, I have a little bit of Russian news here and there. And then there's some SpaceX news here. I'll keep all the SpaceX news in one side. Okay, so check this out. Are they using 4K cameras? I'm not sure if they have a 4K imaging device on Ingenuity. Clayton, I'd have to go look. I mean, any camera on there is good for me at this point, dude. They could glue a potato. They could have glued a potato to the side, and if it worked and gave us at least a discernible image, I'd be pretty happy. I mean, considering it's a frigging remote control helicopter that's signals being relayed through a nuclear powered freaking rover to a freaking reconnaissance satellite up in orbit and then back to freaking our deep space network. I mean, they could have glued a potato to the side and I would have been like, dude, that's awesome. You know, like, I don't know if it's 4K. It might be. Google needed those Street View images. Yeah, right. On paper, a Snapdragon 801 supports 4K video capture, so why not? I mean, the bandwidth is what I'd kind of be worried about, Supercraft. Or am I not thinking about that right? Another road closure for Boca to move more stuff. Active from 11 to 1 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow. Cool. What if they ate up some mass to send a gnome? They should do that. Gnome stocks would go up. Where? Yeah. It's not really remote control, though. That's only for sending the imagery back. It's all controlled on board, I thought. I mean, nobody's controlling it in real time, Smug, so who knows. Anyway, here. Turn the page. The Human Landing System program needs... This is coming from Blue Origin. So, Blue Origin has been receiving a lot of flack for what's been perceived as a $10 billion bailout for their Human Landing System. Look... Fellas, I touched base on this a little bit at the beginning of Space News, but I'm going to go out and say that there is a lot of people out there that do not understand how NASA funding works. And there's definitely a lot of people that are willing to put their hat into the ring when they know nothing about what's going on. Blue Origin, so to understand the context of this situation, you need to go back to when the HLS award, when the Human Landing System, kind of round one of building the lander system that's going to land people back on the moon, and hopefully in 2024, was awarded. SpaceX was awarded as a sole source provider with Lunar Starship to land people on the moon with a Starship variant that was optimized to land on the moon, right? How it was going to work, or how it's going to work, is NASA's going to launch SLS with Orion on it, and then SpaceX is going to launch Starship unmanned. Lunar Starship will refuel a couple of times in low Earth orbit. It'll go out to the gateway, and then Orion will go out to the gateway. They meet up at the gateway. The crew transfers into the lunar lander, and then Starship lands down on the surface. The contract here was awarded to SpaceX for $2.9 billion, and this $2.9 billion basically covers development of the vehicle. Listen, this is the important part. It covers development of the vehicle, a demonstration landing, and a human crewed or manned lunar landing. Development, test landing, actual landing. That's all the contract was for. Now, a couple of things about this HLS contract. The HLS contract was supposed to have, by law, NASA was supposed to choose 2 providers for the Human Landing System. Okay? They were supposed to choose 2. NASA only chose SpaceX because the amount of funding that they got for the Human Landing System program was enough to only choose SpaceX, essentially. NASA... for the round 1 of funding for the HLS program, I think NASA requested $1 billion and they got like $500 million or something. They didn't, or like $2 billion. They didn't even get close for the first fiscal year of the HLS program. The HLS program was started. It was started in 2017 under the NASA Transitional Authorization Act of 2017. And started to get on the books in fiscal year 2020 as part of the Transitional Authorization Act of 2017. The Transitional Authorization Act of 2017 was basically the roadmap for the Artemis program. It was started by Jim as the guy. That's his brainchild right there. That's why he's here, because he restarted the U.S. lunar program, amongst other things. So they asked for funding to start development, and Congress shorted them. They didn't give them the money that they needed. So NASA chose only SpaceX. Okay, because frankly they couldn't choose anything else. The national team's bid was too high. It was so high that they didn't have enough money to even choose them. SpaceX was the only one that fit with NASA's budget. All right. So likewise, Dynetics, who was the other entrant into the Human Landing System program, and the national team, which is Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Draper Laboratories, and Blue Origin, working together as a team, filed a protest, basically saying that, yo, you said you were going to choose 2, so we structured our contract for you choosing 2, and then you didn't choose 2. You reneged on the contract, which is illegal. And they'd be right. They're right in that regard. However, NASA didn't have to choose 1, they didn't have to choose 2. In the broad agency announcement, there was an amendment that was added based off of the funding that NASA got for HLS that said that they could choose 1 or choose none if they didn't have the money. NASA could have said none of you are what we're looking for. But NASA worked with SpaceX because they were the only ones that were even remotely close to their price point. Now, Blue Origin and Dynetics filed a complaint basically to the Government Accountability Office, saying that NASA didn't follow the law. NASA's directives are the law, and if you don't follow the directives, the broad agency announcements, you're breaking the law. So they went to the Accountability Office and they complained about this. Now, what's going to happen with that is that the Government Accountability Office is going to have to go in and make sure that NASA basically crossed their T's and dotted their I's. When they make sure there's no like legal precedent there or some crazy ridiculous thing that NASA ignored to make sure that to basically make sure they did all their homework and basically they were operating within the bounds of the law. If they don't find any wrongdoing, then the lunar program just keeps going. If they do find wrongdoing, they have to start the contract awarding over again. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that's going to delay the program, but if they do find wrongdoing, look, man, that's just the law. It's not Blue Origin or Dynetics' fault if you don't do your homework. NASA has to be held accountable just like everybody else. Right? You don't do your homework, you can't blame it on the contractor. They're the ones that they upheld their end of the bargain. Now, the reason why I went into the whole thing and why I explained everything to you is because that's why you have to understand the context. And this is what I mean when people have no idea what they're talking about. So, Blue Origin is working with Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, and Draper. That's the national team. I'm not going to sit here and say like they don't have lobbyists all over the place. SpaceX does too. SpaceX probably lobbied the heck out of NASA to get them to choose Starship. Let's be real. So, with that being said, Blue Origin, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Draper, they have enough people in high places to really say like, hey, no, you shouldn't, this wasn't, not that this wasn't right. That's an important thing to understand here. Not that this wasn't right, but what they're trying to do, and you could say that, oh, EJ, that's just your opinion. You should go read Senate Resolution 1260 if you really want to know. That's the bill containing this whole $10 billion bailout thing. It's not a bailout. The $10 billion is additional funding to the Human Landing System program. It's $10 billion over 5 years. $2 billion a pop to have competition and have 2 redundant, dissimilar lunar landing systems. I think that's very smart from a spaceflight architecture that retires risks, and you're less likely to kill someone. Like, I'm just gonna be candid on this. You're less likely to kill someone when you have 2 options to get people home or rescue someone, or if something goes wrong. Having 2 ways to go is better than 1. Now, Aiden, here's the thing. And this is what people don't understand. The government accountability filing, first and foremost, Blue Origin and Dynetics complaining that is the norm for defense spending. Or any type of government contract where you're making some type of mechanical piece of equipment, fighter planes, tanks, whatever. That's the norm. This happens every single time a contract gets awarded this way. Every time, literally without question. It's a formality at this point. It's just part of the system. It's something that happens. Of course, when you pick one person out of 3, of course the 2, oh no, why didn't you choose me? This is ridiculous. Why? Because there's a lot of money at stake. All right? Now, with that being said, Blue Origin, I don't know if they lobbied them. I have no idea. The Blue Origin CEO was meeting with some Rule 8 representatives, some House of Representatives people a little while ago, like I think last week or something. So there's no doubt that he probably went over there and explained to them what's going on. Now, the second thing to understand here is that the Senate, so they probably got lobbied and the Senate probably said, okay, we should have 2 landers, right? Them lobbying is going to end up getting NASA more money. That's going to increase NASA's budget so they can choose 2 landers. Okay? That is totally different from the government accountability filing for contract awarding. And before you say I'm full of crap, no, you're wrong. All right? The reason why it's different is because 2 things. One, in Senate Resolution 1260, or just S1260, they talk about increasing the funding, $10 billion over 5 years, to field 2 lunar variants for contract services for routine access to the moon. Okay? What the hell does that mean? All right. That means that they're going to give NASA the money that they need to fund 2 landers, which is what their original goal was in the first place. Okay? This is separate from the government accountability filing. People have to understand that. And Senate Bill 1260 shows that. Senate 1260, this 1260 I don't know if it's called a resolution. I'll just call it a Senate bill, or just S1260 for short. S1260 has an amendment to the HLS program under NASA's Next Step 2 program. The Next Step 2 program is a NASA kind of program for developing acronyms, the next steps that NASA needs to go further into space. One of those things under the Next Step 2 program is HLS. The other one is an HLS logistics system, okay? What does that mean? What does that mean in plain English? Well, if you cast your mind back to SpaceX and their award, the $2.9 billion award, what was that contract for? That contract was for developing the lander, an unmanned lander test, and a human landing test, and that's it. That's all. That's it. That's all it's for. There's no other landing contracts for SpaceX on the books right now after that. That's where this House resolution comes in. This House resolution might not be able to have NASA field 2 landers right now. But when we get back to the moon and we get to operational missions, i.e. going to the moon on a regular schedule, having 2 landers to do that is what NASA's hedging their bets for. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to have 2 ways to land. Because what's better than having 1 way to get to the moon? Having 2 ways to get to the moon that's pretty good, right? I want that. So, it's important to understand that this House resolution bill that is being framed as a bailout for Blue Origin, which is absurdly wrong on multiple levels, and I'll get into that in a second, it's an increase, a $10 billion increase over 5 years in NASA's Human Landing System and Human Exploration Operations Mission Directorate budget. That $10 billion isn't all going to Blue Origin. That $10 billion in that resolution bill is to field 2 landing systems, meaning that some of that money will probably find its way into Elon Musk's pocket because one of his landers got chosen for the human landing system. Oh, geez, funny how that works. But it's not being framed that way. It's being framed as, oh, all that money's going to Blue Origin. Jeff Bezos owns Blue Origin. Why does he need more money? That's not how this works at all. That's not how anybody that's trying to frame it that way is either trying to get you to think something for some weird reason or doesn't understand how NASA funding awards work. Nor have anybody that's saying that read the Senate 1260 bill, which says that the $10 billion is for 2 landing systems. So, the last thing that I have to say about this, the last thing that I have to say about the whole human landing system thing is that even if all that money is going to go to the national team, which it's not, but if we want to play off the contingency that people's rhetoric, what they think, oh, all of it's going to Blue Origin, or the national team, they shouldn't just say Blue Origin. That money is not going all to Blue Origin. If anything, Blue Origin has privately funded the descent stage for this lander even before the Artemis program was invented. Blue Moon is something that Blue Origin has planned on doing for a long period of time. So the descent stage for that landing system was basically funded for out of pocket, along with the launch vehicle, which is reusable, might I add, to move that to the moon. All that was funded out of pocket, and that's a heavy launch vehicle. So a heavy launch vehicle, a descent stage, one of the most powerful upper stages that we have right now, New Glenn's second stage. That was all paid for out of pocket. That $10 billion most likely is not going to go into the descent stage because the descent stage is already developed. It's probably going to go into the ascent module, guidance systems, and the transfer stage. You know how I know? Because that's the stuff we haven't seen. We don't know what the HLS, what the national team's ascent stage is going to look like. Lockheed Martin's doing the ascent stage. It's Orion derived, but we've never seen like a concrete picture. Never seen like a mock-up. Like there is a mock-up at JSC, right? But the mock-up always changes shape. It's much less fleshed out than the descent stage, which is pretty uniform throughout all of what we've seen from Blue Origin. So that $10 billion, if it goes to the national team, is not just going to go right into Jeff Bezos' pocket. It's going to be to develop the national team's landing system, which is not just the descent stage. It's the transfer stage and the ascent module and logistics for figuring out how to launch this thing and how to move it out to the gateway. What does the Orion second stage look like? Well, Orion or SLS? SLS uses 2 upper stages right now, RJ. The stage that they're using for testing and interim stuff is the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, which is a Delta IV second stage on top of an SLS core stage. That's used for deep space testing for Orion. That's what the Artemis 1 mission is about. SLS Block 1B is going to use the Exploration Upper Stage, or EUS for short. It's an 8.4 meter diameter Hydrolox upper stage using 4 RL-10s. So it's basically like a Delta IV second stage on steroids. 4 times as big. 4 times the Delta V. That coupled with Orion would be a very potent way to move descent modules or transfer stages out to the gateway with Orion as a tug to get it to gateway. That's a really good idea. The national team system works great with SLS, and it works excellent with New Glenn and SLS tag teaming, moving logistics out to the moon, which is what that Next Step 2 broad agency announcement for lunar logistics services is all about. And you know, I know what people are going to say, the cost. I mean, I have a hard time understanding people that don't want to give NASA more money, and the skeptical people of this seem to think that that you can somehow engineer a lunar landing stage for millions of dollars instead of billions of dollars, which I find funny. The reason why SpaceX's contract was so low, and this is self-admittedly by SpaceX, and don't get me wrong, this is not a demerit or anything. SpaceX has a lot of private capital behind it. In fact, the broad agency announcement for the HLS Round 1 contract stipulates that you can use private funding to complete your goal on top of NASA funding. It explicitly says that. So Yeah, SpaceX bid low because they have the private capital behind them to fund this. Spoiler alert, Elon Musk has a lot of money. The NASA contract explicitly said that, and you can be damn sure that a SpaceX lobbyist probably lobbied a good deal to get that piece of legislation in that broad agency announcement. So, long story short, guys, where do we stand? Where do I think this is going to go? Honestly, I think if this Senate bill gets passed and that increase to NASA's budget happens for fiscal year 2022, and they approve of that $10 billion over 5 years, I'm pretty damn sure that Blue Origin, or the national team at least, will probably drop that GAO protest. I don't know about Dynetics. Dynetics is kind of the wild card here, but yeah, I think that will just kind of go away. I have a pretty good feeling that that's just gonna be, oh, what protest?
You'll have something over here, and you'll be looking at it, and you'll be like, oh, what is this? I don't remember. This, though, I really like this. What is this? I don't remember what's happening. You suck!
Anyway.
Yeah, what is this? I like this in my hand. What is this over here? I don't know what that is anymore.
Anyway, with that being said, look at the tweet. The human landing system program needs competition, not the delay of starting over. The national team has an open architecture, deep experience, massive self-funded investments, and a safe, low-risk design to return to the moon. Let's go. I forgot about that scene.
What is this? What's this in my hand? You'll have something over here, and then you'll have something over here, and you'll be like, what's this? I forget. This, though. Bitch!
Sorry. I don't mean to swear. I like this. And once again, my entire theory that the last part of what I said before we looked at this tweet was based off of this. I mean, oh, please stop tugging my arm. The thing is that they knew the protests would stop things. That tweet invasion of gaslighting. I mean, Hellfish. We can sit here and we can pretend like we have some control over the situation, and we can keep lying to ourselves if you really want my honest opinion. Or we could sit here and let this thing run its course and get two landers. Get two landers that go to the moon. I mean, which one do you want? Do you want to sit here and pretend like we have a say in this process? And don't get me wrong, I have a problem that we don't. But, I mean, which one do you want at this point? Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want less ways to get to the moon? Oh. Can we get 3 landers? Yeah, see, I like that. Like, you could call your rep and tell them, I don't think this is a good idea. Do you think they're going to listen? I mean, they might. You should. You probably should if you have a bone with this. If you don't like what's being shown, I want 4. I'm with you on that one. I'm really having a hard time understanding why people are upset about this. And don't get me wrong, I'm a taxpayer, I should have a say in it. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. But, this isn't a bailout. A lot of people are overlooking the fact that the whole HLS program's original documentation says to field 2 landers. NASA only fielded 1 because they couldn't. And people are going to sit here and say, oh, well, SpaceX can do it for cheaper. It's not about price. It's not about price at all. Yes, if NASA can have a low-cost service, that's great. But you never want to put all your eggs in one basket. That's an extremely risky thing to do with any type of spaceflight architecture. A lot of, you've heard astronauts have, say anecdotes like, oh yeah, we're riding on this rocket. It's the most complicated machine ever made, and it was made by the lowest bidder. Like, I get it, it's a joke, and it's not to suggest the quality of the vehicle is bad, but, you know, nor do I think SpaceX would ever jeopardize an astronaut's life by any means. But there are known unknowns, and then there are unknown unknowns in spaceflight. You never know. I don't want to take that chance. I don't want to take that chance with going back to the moon, because all it's going to take is one stupid accident to happen, like Apollo 13, where even if we get people back, it's going to be a stain on the Artemis program, and we do not want that. Just like Challenger was a stain on the shuttle program, it never recovered. And having 2 landers is a good way to cover your bases here to ensure long-term viability of the program. I get it. SpaceX can do it for cheaper. I understand, but it's not about that. It's about having 2 ways to go. And if there is another person, if there was Space Y out there and they had a lander too, and they were cost competitive with SpaceX, I'd want them to choose that. Choose 2 landers. It's not about choosing SpaceX over a national team or over Dynetics. It's about having 2 landers, which is very smart. That's a very smart way of doing things. That's a very good way to ensure long-term program viability. Like I said, i.e. not killing someone in space. That could tank the entire program. Do we want to take this chance? No, we do not want to take this chance. That's really stupid. I understand where you were coming from, but they are blaming others for their own screw-ups, from violating the broad agency announcements to the incredibly expensive lander compared to SpaceX. Violating broad agency announcements. I mean, yeah, Hellfish, you could sit here and say that, you know, oh, they asked for more money than they could per the BAA, but honestly, the original HLS legislature says choose 2 landers, and they didn't choose 2 landers. Which one of those is a bigger screw-up to you? Say Spy is a Kerbal mod. Yeah, right. Craftsman Tools just replaced free and shipped to me a 1/2-inch ratchet set I purchased in 1977. They really stand by their lifetime guarantee. Thought I was screwed when Sears went out of business. Didn't Lowe's buy them or something, Tom? No, you're good, man. Apollo 11 was made by German engineers with U.S. money. I'll take false statements for 400. Thought, it's not that Germans weren't working on the space program with us. It's not. They absolutely were. But can you name me a German that worked for Grumman that helped design that lunar lander? I'll wait. Kosari, and I'm not trying to be a jerk. Please bear with me. I'm not trying to be a jerk. Do you know who Kraft Erich is? Do you know where Walter Dernberger is? Do you know Von Braun? You probably know who Von Braun is. Do you know any of the other guys? All of them? Okay, what did Kraft Erich design? Please. Goering? No. He wasn't a rocket engineer. He's a pilot. And fat. Can I is it okay to body shame that guy? I can body shame him. I think that's fair. So, what did Kraft Erich design? What did he work on for the Apollo program? Like, I see a lot of people peddle this stuff around and they don't know. You got to be careful with this stuff. You don't know exactly what you're saying. I'll bet you money you don't know who Kraft Erich is and his contributions to the Apollo program. The reason is because it's a trick question. Kraft Erich worked for Convair and he designed the Centaur upper stage, which had nothing to do with the Apollo program. That's the trick question. You see what I'm talking about? There were German engineers overseeing the project and contributing based off of the information that they learned in Germany before they were relocated here by the U.S. But 400,000 Americans contributed in the Apollo program. I'm not saying we couldn't have done it without the Germans, but it's important to recognize that it's not, the Germans weren't pulling the purse strings, weren't pulling the project the entire time when we weren't just giving them money. That's an important thing to understand. I don't know, I'm kind of trolling. Well, it's all right. I mean, and even then, Kasari, what a lot of people don't know is Von Braun's research is all based off of an American. It's based off of Robert Goddard's designs, believe it or not. An American invented the liquid fuel rocket engine. We say that, we stole all the German tech, which we did, But all their tech is based off our stuff. The Soviets did the same thing and designed their own tech. You know what I mean? Like, it's important to understand the context with that statement. But I get it. I get trolls coming in here all the time that are like, but Operation Paperclip, Joe Rogan talked about that. I'm like, yeah, you don't know what you have no idea what you're saying. It's fine. It's okay. But most of them are trolls, dude. So, yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, Everest, let's not sugarcoat it. Dornberger was kind of a piece of trash. I mean, his contributions to NASA were great, but it's also kind of a piece of trash. He's the one that built the pendulum rocket. That's right, Geeson. Yep. Politically speaking, the bigger screw-up is expected to be awarded the contract when they knew they were outside of the rules in the competition. I'm not angry about it. It's just disappointing. Well, I mean, do you want NASA to choose Dynetics in SpaceX? Like, look, man, you gotta eventually, at some point, yeah, it's annoying, dude. I'm not happy about that. I mean, Dynetics, I don't even know what the heck they were thinking, right? But at the end of the day, dude, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like one of the richest, like I'm upset that one of the richest guys on the planet wants to build a human landing system for NASA and get us a way to get back to the moon. I'm not gonna sit here and say like I don't like that. I mean, Elon and Jeff have sunk billions of dollars of their own money into doing just that. So, I mean, yeah, it does kind of suck that it turned out this way, but I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it, I guess. I'd want all three. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. All right, Primo. Drive safe. I want them to actually work through it to a workable solution that is good for everyone without the proverbial stamping of feet. You're asking defense contractors to act professionally in this regard? We can dream, I guess. Anyway, let's move on to the Russian news. What year do you think the national team could deliver a human landing system? Yeah, well, but it kind of depends on what happens, doesn't it? His work was based off of Ober, whose work was not based off of Goddard and Tsiolkovsky. Well, von Braun worked with Oberth, if I remember correctly, Kim, in like the 20s and the 30s. He worked with Hermann Oberth. But the designs, the math behind it comes from Tsiolkovsky, and the design comes from Goddard. So it's really, I mean, we've discussed this many times, dude. It's an international kind of smorgasbord of cooperation inadvertently from Germans, Russians, and Americans. And then, I mean, there's the Chinese, if you really want to like the first rocket. I mean, the Chinese figured out solid rocket boosters a long time ago. A convergent divergent nozzle design dates back to ancient China, if you really want credit where credit is due. You know? How could they have been so out of touch, though? It's a bit weird because, as you said, they have people throughout the industry. To whom are which you referring, Phil? Yeah, Zanku, that's the other thing I don't understand, man. Like, I don't understand. This is, and that's why the first point that I said when I made my case for this gave my explanation as to what's going on was that this is par for the course, guys. It's par for the course. This stuff happens all the time. The national team, how could they have been so out of touch, though? It's a bit weird because, as you said, they have people throughout the industry. Okay, they have people throughout the industry, Phil. Dude, it's something that you guys got to understand, all right? We got to sit here and understand this. Spaceflight is expensive. It doesn't matter if you have the resources at your disposal. Defense, like, if you could have the engineers, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to take a lot of time and to develop one of these suckers. Anyway, Oompa Loompa, to answer your question, if we go through and we get funding on the books for 2 landers, I think 2024, the end of 2024 is very achievable at this point. I'm much more worried about having the rockets to actually get people there than the landers at this point in time, to be quite honest with you. We only have 3 SLS rockets, and one of them we're going to use for an unmanned test flight. And the other one is going to be used for the first human-rated flight. And then the last one is on the books right now. The funding that we have is for the human landing. So we really only have enough. There's really only enough rockets on the books right now to land once. And that's what this whole thing is about. Getting NASA the cash that they need to transition over from development to operational missions. That's part of the reason what this $10 billion over 5 years is about for HLS. But people can't be bothered with actually going and reading the damn Senate bill about this. So I figure I'll say it here, you know? But anyway, going back to it, this stuff is expensive. Elon Musk makes it look easy. And the reason why he makes it look easy and the reason why SpaceX's prices are so low, first and foremost, is that they underbid. They underbid on purpose to get selected because they know they can bridge the funding with private capital. That does not mean that that's a shady thing to do. That's totally, if I would do the same exact thing, and that's totally fine. You want to fund this stuff out of pocket to get the contracts to make your business profitable? Fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that. You got to spend money to make money. I get it. This is just $1 billion. We're talking about spending money to make money at the billionaire level. But even then, Phil, with all the national team's resources, so one, first and foremost, you got to spend money to make money, no doubt. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they could just crap out a lunar lander right now. It is going to take development. It's going to take time. We haven't engineered any lunar landers in 50 years almost. 60 if you count the start of the Apollo program. We haven't engineered a lunar lander in a very long time. You can't just magically accumulate this data. This isn't the Matrix. This is going to take time, and it's going to be expensive. The key is, how expensive do we want it to be in the long run? That's the key. Starship, for instance, with SpaceX, Elon has touted it to get it as simple as, or as inexpensive as $2 million a flight. That's $2 million a flight after several $1 billion of research and development. The reason why the $2 million a flight thing is a thing is from Starship's rapid prototyping and mass production. Elon talks about scalability all the time. And once again, if I had to choose, I like that way. I like scaling rockets up. But I want that to happen with every rocket. The key with this is that it's going to take the same amount of money to develop this. The key is how much do you want to use it? Do we want another lunar lander? Do we want to have 2 lunar landers and then land each one of them once? And that's it? And then back to low Earth orbit, back to the ISS stuff? No. We can get the costs down if we fly more. But anybody that sits here and acts like this isn't a zero-sum game is crazy. You think that they think that SpaceX is, paying their employees with monopoly money or something, which they're not. And once again, if I had to choose a way to do this, I would choose the scalable way, because Elon, from what I understand, and I don't speak for him, from what I understand, the way he looks at it is the way forward, I think. We have to normalize space delivery logistics services if we really want to reach the next step in our civilization, the next page in our civilization's book, I guess. I think he's right. I think that's the way to do it. You have to mass produce and mass produce and mass produce and make a lot of it to get the price to go down. Eventually, you'll get an ROI right there because you have a capability that can't be superseded. All right? And I think he's right in that regard. And I think that, the legacy space companies will have no choice but to innovate, or they'll be driven out of the market. However, I also think it's important to have 2 dissimilar methods of getting to the moon. And in that regard, it doesn't matter how much Elon drives the price down. They'll always have another team, even if they're more expensive, even if they're 3 times the cost. And you could sit here and say, no, EJ, that's not going to happen. That's exactly what the Space Force does. The Space Force, with their Evolved Expendable Launch Vehicle contracts, had money going out as a contract service to just maintain the launch pads that was almost $1 billion a year. To maintain 2 launch pads for 2 different rockets to have dissimilar access into space. Even the National Security Space Launch contract that was awarded to ULA and SpaceX, SpaceX's prices are way lower. They're way lower than ULA's ever would be. That doesn't matter. It's not about having the cheapest way. That's, even though that is a priority, it's about having two ways to get into space. Because back in 1986, the Air Force, in the early 80s, the Air Force was going to use the space shuttle to launch everything into space. And then the space shuttle, well, I'm not going to say the space shuttle had a design flaw because I don't believe that. I don't believe that the space shuttle has a design flaw. If you fly the space shuttle in conditions that that it wasn't engineered for, it's not going to work right. You don't go off-roading in a smart car. I mean, somebody's probably done that somewhere, and someone's probably gotten stuck because the thing isn't designed for that. Space shuttle wasn't designed to launch in the cold. They launched it in the cold. It failed. You had a problem. Simple as that. Now, the Air Force immediately pulled out of the space shuttle program right after that because they realized we don't have a way to launch into space. All the other rockets were going to be replaced by the space shuttle. So they said, oh crap, we don't have a way to launch our spy satellites into space. Oh, this isn't good. So from there, basically from 1986 onwards, they'll always choose two. And NASA would be smart to do the same thing for the same reasons. You don't want to strand somebody on the moon. That'll tank the entire Artemis program. Straight up. It'll tank the entire Artemis program if somebody gets hurt or something stupid happens like that. Just like Challenger tanked the shuttle program. Same thing. It doesn't matter. The price is irrelevant at this point. In terms of that, I mean, the competition is really what's going to drive the price down, and that comes from choosing two. So, I mean, yeah, that's kind of where I stand on this whole thing. I mean, are they going to green run Artemis 2 at Stennis? Negative, Cajun. Big toys at big price tags. Geeson, it's anybody that thinks that SpaceX can magically just money print or go burr and just produce something like Starship without spending billions of dollars is crazy. Is crazy. They underbid on their contracts. And once again, in case there's any SpaceX fanboys around here, I'm with you. I don't mind that. That's fine. Keep doing it. We need to reduce the cost to get into space. Abso-frigging-lutely. I'm with you on that one. I agree with you. Like, just in case anybody starts barking up my tree, I totally agree. Yeah, that's the way to do that. That's the way I would do it if I was smart enough to do what Elon Musk does, but I'm not. That's why I'm running a Twitch stream. You know what I mean? Like, something like that, Hunts. Yeah, I guess that's an okay way to look at it. I think I recall when Progress, Cygnus, and Dragon all had bad days, and Jax's HTV was the only available way to supply the ISS. Avidus, exactly. That's a very good example. Perfect. You have to have dissimilar ways because space is constantly trying to kill you at every waking moment. You cannot. There's no way in hell that you can account for every single circumstance with one lifter or one lander. That's a really stupid way to do things. The only reason Apollo did it that way was because they were pressed for time. Choose to go to the moon in this decade. All right? If NASA wasn't pressed for time, they probably would have either A, worked with the Soviets, or B, developed two landers. Work with the Soviets is probably what they would have ended up doing. I mean, they wanted to, but that's just not how it transpired. And before you say, like, oh, what? What do you mean? I think they wanted a joint base, but the Soviets couldn't get their super heavy rocket working, so we ended up with the Apollo-Soyuz test project, which, that's cool. Stop underrating yourself. You're a frigging fine mechanic. It's self-deprecating humor, Everest. I don't know if that's a thing. I take myself down a peg or two a lot. It keeps your, I'm not going to say your ego in check, but it does. It keeps my ego in check. It's important to remember your place in this whole hierarchy of things. You know what I mean? And that's not to say that you can't change your place in the hierarchy of things either. It's just important to keep everything in perspective. Keeps your feet on the ground, exactly. Do you see SpaceX teaming up with Lego to make sets? Would that happen? Oh, that'd be great, C4. Also, I like C4 Corvettes. Those are cool. Underrated piece of equipment. The LT1 engine is Good. I mean, it got overshadowed by the LS, but oh well. I mean, the LS is a pretty good engine. I'm not gonna lie to you. David Letterman made himself a millionaire doing it. One of the other reasons they canceled it is because we canceled Apollo. Yeah, sorry about that, Kem. You should have kept going, though. That would have been nice. It would have been nice to have Apollo-Soyuz test project in low lunar orbit. That's something I could get behind. Can you imagine a joint gateway with the full power of the Soviets and the Americans behind it? Oh. Yeah, I'm not going to say I don't want that. Basically for all mankind, but not stupid. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Everest. I can dream, dude. I can dream. International Lunar Skylab. You can't tempt me with a good time, bro. I wish I were smart enough for that. Smart is relevant, Dr. Death. You can get smarter. And if you aren't improving your neural net up here, guess what? There's no third direction, man. Being smart is relative. You can be smarter. Ever heard of fake it until you make it? No, I'm not. This is a joke. Can you imagine Chinese in it with their mayor power? Everest, that'd be nice, but yeah, I mean, it'd be nice. It'd be nice. Freudian slip, yeah, something like that. All right. Anyway, let's get into the Russian news and then we'll go. We have some test flights to do. Willie, it'd be nice, but it isn't without its kind of asterisks on the thing. That's part of the reason why I just kind of can't get hyped up about what China does, knowing what they do with those stages and stuff, man. It waters it down. It's not as potent of a message, but whatever. It ain't any of my business, I guess. I'll just keep covering what Russia does and what we do and the Europeans and the Japanese and kind of go from there. Anyway, speaking of that, let's go see what's going on in Russia. The Proton PM company has started to master production of the RD-191M, a modified version of the 191 for the Angara launch vehicles. The first unit is to be manufactured in the beginning of 2023, the same year that Energomash will start testing it. Interesting. RD-191M, rocket motor 191 modernized. I also have a Mirror nuclear tug news, but it's a 15-minute video. Kem, we might have to pinch it because I gotta get to those test flights, dude. I gotta get one vehicle back in one piece like SpaceX and not crash it into the ground. Yeah, C4, it'd be nice, dude. It'd be nice. I'd rather, instead of coming together under one space agency, I think the better idea is to just have international cooperation, like the ISS. That's a pretty good case example of why you should do it that way. Things because whatever we build, if we decide to go and build something out of the moon, ain't nobody gonna be the one to pull out of it. You know what I mean? Just like, look at how much flack Dmitry Rogozin got for even suggesting pulling out of the ISS program. He got flack from everyone. See what I mean? Hey, All Systems, what's up? Do you think Nauka will be the last Proton launch? If I'm recalling correctly, there is 2 Proton launch vehicles left. I might be pulling that one out of my tail. I'd have to go look. Is it... Kem, you linked an article a little while back stating that the last Proton had been delivered to Baikonur. And if I'm recalling correctly, there's not many. There's like, if it's not 2, it's like 3 or 4 of them. Because I know they shut the production line for Proton a little while back. They retooled it. What did they retool Proton to? Angara? It was Angara, was it? No, Angara's at Omsk. What did they retool? They retooled it for a Mir or Yenisei or something. The last Proton was finished, but they have more in stock. Yeah. Triz, yeah. Yeah, I know, right? We can dream. Or not. I don't know. All right, so What do we got here? An active phase of preparation for the first filming in orbit has begun in Star City. Actress Yulia Peresild and director Klim Shipenko conducted the first test inside the Soyuz MS spacecraft simulator. Yeah, Russia is going to have an actress and a director launch into space on a Soyuz rocket and film a movie in space, which is pretty cool. All right. Let's see. What's Dmitry saying here? So the Nauka launch is set to launch to the IS. The Nauka module wait, hold on. Completed final checkouts and is set to launch to the ISS on July 15th. Factory tests of the Nauka module have been completed. We start preparing for its launch to the ISS. Planned launch date is for 7/15/2021. Cool. The video has some nice shots, but we're not going to watch it. We can watch it tomorrow, dude. Just link it up tomorrow. No problem. I'll plug through the rest of this. So this is coming from Dmitry. This was on Tuesday. Yeah, because I haven't done space news. We didn't talk about this. But Bill Nelson, the NASA administrator, said that he's going to talk with Dmitry Rogozin soon, noting that Dmitry Rogozin is sanctioned by the U.S. He's not allowed into U.S. or U.S. territory after what happened in 2014. Yeah, you can go read about that on your own time if you're wondering. Just look up Russia 2014. You can figure it out. But he has been solid with regard to continuation and cooperation with us in space. Rogozin. So here's Dmitry's response to that. The new head of NASA, Mr. Nelson, is a respected and honored person and a specialist. I would be glad to meet him. We are already inviting him to Russia and are ready to discuss openly and constructively all issues of our cooperation in space. Okay? Movie in space, that's stupid. Why? Why? Hey, man, if we want to expand the market on all fronts, PY. Seriously. If we're going to do that, I mean, anything we can do to get more people involved with space in a movie would definitely help. And a movie that was actually shot in space would definitely help. If that's how Roscosmos is going to spend their money, dude, I'm not one to say that I don't like that. I mean, science would be preferable, but hey, screw it. Outreach is outreach, bro. What did Rogozin have to do with them annexing the Crimean Peninsula? King Dmitry Rogozin was, before he ran Roscosmos, he was in Weidmann's cabinet, would be the right way to say that. He worked... What was his job? Oh, I forget what the Russian equivalent of it is. Hold on. I can look it up. Okay, so in January 2008, he was Russia's ambassador to Nato. He has a doctorate in philosophy and in other technologies. The president, Dmitry Medvedev, in 2011 appointed Rogozin as the special representative on anti-missile defense, and he negotiated with NATO countries on that issue. And then he was appointed as director, as deputy prime minister in charge of the defense and space industries. For the defense industry, he led the creation of the Russian Foundation for Advanced Research Projects in the Defense Industry. Basically, the Russian Foundation for Advanced Research Projects is DARPA. It's the Russian version of DARPA. And then in May 2018, he became the CEO of Roscosmos, which is a state-owned corporation. It works exactly like a business, except the primary shareholder is the state, kind of like Amtrak almost. Yeah, he was the ambassador to NATO. Yes. And he's, yeah. Weidmann likes him. That's why. Because Russian movies suck? Alright. I don't know. I haven't really watched very many Russian movies. Salyut 7 was good. Wait a minute. Salyut 7 was a great flick, dude. Think Rogozin will bring up the Buran issue to try and get NASA's help? Unlikely. Thomas, no, I don't. I don't think he would. And the reason why I don't think he would is because that's an internal affair. And if it's one thing that I've noticed about the Russians, if they think something is an internal affair, they want people to screw off and not talk about it. It's just something I've noticed. How will movie magic get rid of the funny looking faces? I don't know. Maybe keep them. To show people that that's what happens in space over. Just saying. If Nauka is the last proton, could Ngara launch ExoMars too? Ngara could do it, Aiden, yes. Yeah, pretty much, goalie. Dmitry basically ran DARPA, and then like a Secretary of Defense. Yeah, he's friends with a lot of people that are high up in the Russian Ministry of Defense. Yeah, let's just say that. Yeah. Oh God, not Amtrak. Yeah. Cool haircut. Thanks, sir. Did you see the Baikonur Buran got graffitied? Yeah, I know, Spaceman. It sucks. What's the latest on SpaceX? Do you want... Well, Elon Shen, I have a whole... We have to get to the SpaceX segment, and I'm going to move over to that in a second. But it's good that Dmitry wants to work with Bill and vice versa. That's good. This is a good thing. I'm hoping Bill can, sweeten the pot on getting Russia involved with the Artemis program, because I'm telling you, fellas, and this is just for the American sides of things. If you're Russian watching the stream, just feel free to chime in if I'm right on this. If we get Russia to work with us on the Artemis program, that pretty much seals the deal on whether that's going to happen or not. I mean, don't get me wrong. The odds are in our favor right now to do that. But if Bill can figure out a way to sweeten the pot and get Dmitry that mutual cooperation for lunar exploration that he's really looking for. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't know how he's going to do that. If that's the case and we can get the Russians on board, yeah, it's going to be one of those things like the ISS that's going to be very, 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 very hard to get rid of, because you don't want to pull the plug on a program where international partners are depending on you. Nobody wants to be that guy. The anti-space people took it too far with that one. The graffiti literally said Earth first before space. I mean, Aiden, it said that's not what it said. It said in order to go into space, we have to learn how to live on Earth. But yeah, I understand. I even though there's some merit to that, I really, really hate that they ruined basically something that's not replaceable. That thing is ruined. You're going to have to replace a good amount of the tiles and thermal protection systems on it if you wanted to restore it, right? And last time I checked, the factory that makes those tiles for Buran hasn't been a thing for 30 years. Yeah, that sucks. That sucks. It's really, really frigging annoying. That thing is priceless. You can't replace that. And I get it. It's kind of stupid in the first place that Roscosmos didn't care about it. They have expressed interest in acquiring it, but it doesn't seem like it's a priority, which sucks. Like, dude, I've said it once, I'll say it again. If somebody gave me the opportunity, I'd go pull that thing out of that hangar myself and fix it to the best of my ability. And I don't know if that would be good or not. It probably wouldn't. It'd probably end up looking worse. I'll be honest with you. But at least somebody would try. At least somebody's trying something. I doubt it. Maybe that docking adapter at most. Yeah, I don't know. Still no news about that. I wish they could just take it. Screw those guys. Yeah, screw the guys that own it. Yeah, that whole property thing. Yeah, I know. Big pain in the butt. Who owns the Buran? It's owned by the Kazakh government or some guy in Kazakhstan or something. I guess one could just paint the original colors over it. Yeah. What worries me are the comments that they may have already painted over it. They'll just paint it. It's not like it was going to fly anyway. I think Russia's never going to work with the USA, whatever you say. I mean, they work with us right now on the ISS. But all right. You think the Americans can build the docking module by themselves? I mean, PY, not to sound like a complete jerk, but yeah, of course we can. But that's not what this is about, dude. We want international cooperation, or at least I do. I want to work with you guys because that helps make sure that the program doesn't freaking get tanked. Like, if you have international cooperation on a program, and let's be real here, you guys are the only other country, because we don't want to work with China. You guys are the only country that moves significant amounts of payload into orbit. Like, no offense to the Europeans, right? Like, I'd prefer to work with you. I'd prefer to have that perspective. I've always said more ways to get to the moon than less. You know, if we have Starship and SLS working, you know, an Orion capsule in the future launching on a Yenisei rocket to go to the gateway as well, yeah, I would want this. Because the only thing better than having 2 ways to go to the moon is having 3 ways to go to the moon. I don't give a crap if somebody else if another country has, you know, their own domestic system for that. I don't care. That's more competition. That's a good thing. I thought Russia already said they were going to work with China on a moon base. Well, Weiser, they signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, which is basically a nice way of saying we're planning on working with you in the future, maybe, but we don't have plans right now. That's what an MOU is. It's basically the equivalent of a verbal contract, which basically means nothing in the legal world. Could Angara get humans to the moon? You'd need to launch 2 or 3 of them, RJ. Angara has similar payload capacity like Delta 4 or an Atlas Heavy, maybe a little bit more, but the Russians are working on a Perseus upper stage for it, which is a Hydrolox upper stage. Kind of similar to a Delta 4 second stage in terms of performance, which if they get Perseus figured out, then now we're talking here. Now that changed the ball game a little bit. I agree, Falcon, but yeah, that's just me. Here, if you thought that was not enough for China-Russia moon base, we are expecting to get the first response from our colleagues to get innovations at the bilateral meetings on the sidelines of GLEX 2021. Kim, I guess, if that's... Yeah, I mean, it's just an MOU at this point. If it changes, I'll definitely give you an update. Yeah, great picture, Thomas. Mm-hmm. The European Space Agency sucks. They always fail. That is true. COVID has done a number on their program, Kosari. That's for sure. Especially with Vega, and now they're having problems with Ariane 5, and Ariane 6 is a little bit behind schedule. I mean, a little bit. Yeah, but the thing about the European program is that it's the same kind of stuff that we have going on over here. They want their own way to get into space. They don't want to rely on anybody. You have to have domestic launch capability if you want to be taken seriously on the international stage. In that regard, Kness has Ariane 5, Ariane 6, Vega, and Soyuz, but the Soyuz is operated in-house and bought from Russia, which is... Alright. I mean... Yeah, it's... Dude, I like what our European bros do. They contribute... Where they lack in launch capability, they contribute heavily in the scientific sector. Especially when it comes to climate stuff. Yeah, they're footing the bill for a lot of that, and that's cool. That's fine. If anything, my one critique of the program is that they don't have domestic launch capability. There's so much brain power in Europe, dude. There's so much, and I understand the situation over there. Like, people have explained it to me plenty of times. It's just all that brain power in Europe. I mean, you guys aren't stupid. You could easily make a man-rated rocket, and it would probably be one of the best man-rated launch vehicles ever designed. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. But the oomph to do that is not there. Ariane is already human-rated, yeah, and Orion's a great rocket. Ariane 5's a good rocket. I like it. It's a great piece of engineering. It's like a little mini SLS. That Vulcan engine is sweet. It's like a little mini shuttle engine, somewhere synonymous in function to an RS-25 or an RD-0120. It's a good piece of equipment. That's great engineering. And then there's the what's the upper stage? The Da Vinci motor. Yeah, great piece of kit. Absolutely. But you know, launch a couple satellites here and there, commercial satellites here and there, and a couple of defense satellites here and there, and maybe a global positioning satellite and an ISS resupply vehicle. Once in a blue moon. Actually, less than that. But yeah, I wish they would do something with all that, you know? Yeah. Ariane 5 reminds me of Titan 4. It's kind of like Titan 4, Aiden. Ariane 5 is, actually better. I mean, Titan never had a Hydrolox core stage. It was hypergalls, which is great if you're making a missile, a liquid fuel ICBM, but not the greatest performance if you're making a space vehicle. Ariane 5 is like better. It's better. Titan did have Transstage, which is okay, and then Titan Centaur is a very potent launch vehicle. But yeah, they got old and expensive. Yeah, PY. I mean, if it's not on their priority, dude, like I said, I want to work with people whose priority it is, you know? Just personal opinion, though. Anyway, a little bit more. NPO and Urgamash completed a series of environmental corrosion and fire life cycle test of an MVSK-02 engine for the Orion spacecraft, which confirmed its assigned service life of 7 years, including 560 days of flight operation in space. Oh. So this is a bipropellant hypergolic thruster. It's using UDMH, unsymmetrical dimethylhydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide. It makes 245 newtons. What is that? 245 newtons. This is not a service propulsion system. This is an RCS thruster. 245 is caca. Specific impulse is good enough, though. Inlet pressure is 1.7 megapascals. Operating pressure is 1.27 between 1.27 and 2.06. How big is that thruster? This is a small RCS thruster, if I'm looking at this right. Judging by the thrust that it outputs, like a Draco engine. Yeah, this is a small rocket. It's just probably about this big. Yeah, it's really not. That's not a lot of thrust. I thought this was a service propulsion system. No, it's not. It's the RCS basically. It's a little tiny thruster. There's a mock-up of Orion. Orion is basically a Russian equivalent. It's a Russian equivalent of Orion. It's a deep space exploration capsule that they're developing. Why didn't we make a replacement for Titan after we got rid of it? We did, RJ. Atlas 5 and, well, Atlas 3, Atlas 5, and Delta 3 and Delta 4 for the most part. Yeah. Delta 3 and Atlas 3 were interim designs, designed to bridge the gap. Titan 4 operated well into the 90s and even into the 2000s a little bit and was phased out by Atlas 5 and Delta 4. Yeah. That's when I was back in, when I was just a little wee EJ. Yeah, that was like the new Atlas 5 and Delta 4 were the new hotness when I was in like high school. That was like cutting edge for the time. And that's why I like Delta 4 so much. I remember reading about it in Popular Mechanics. I'm like, wow, this rocket's really good. Hydrolox the whole way through? Nice. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like 15-year-old EJ understood what the hell that meant, but you get the idea. I liked it. 15-year-old EJ liked that rocket because it was orange like the external tank, and I liked the space shuttle. Like, let's be real. That's how that transpired. You like this live stream? I'm learning so much as an aerospace student. That's the idea, Koseri. I'm gonna get you hooked on spaceflight, because spaceflight's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Orange rocket. Good. Yes. Atlas V is an actual direct descendant of the Titan IV, but instead of naming system Titan V, they elected to use Atlas. They elected to use the Atlas name as Titan IV and recently suffered 3 launch failures in a row shortly before the announcement of Titan Atlas V. Vulcan, where'd you get that info from? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just interested. I'd prefer to read about it because I don't know too much about that in that regard. Okay, Thomas, I got the Roscosmos tweet about Oriole. Okay, let's see what else we got. Let's see. 30 mock-ups of the MVSK-02 engine have already been delivered to RC Energia for vibration and thermal vac test, as well as 16 mock-ups for static fire. Cool. Mock-ups doesn't translate here. Mock-ups are engines. They're not mock. I'm pretty sure the translation means the mock-up engine is a test motor, not an actual flight motor. I'm pretty sure that's the translation. They're not mock-ups in English implies that it's fake, that it's not a functional thing. Now they wouldn't be doing vibration and vac tests on a non-functional engine, and they definitely wouldn't be static firing a non-functional engine as well. It's just made out of cardboard. Send it, fire it, let's see what happens. Okay, so a little bit more space news here. Let's see what we got. This one is coming from Lockheed Martin. It's a picture of GPS SV-05, which is a third generation GPS satellite. I'm not sure exactly. I think this is launching on Atlas, but I could be wrong. But if you ever wondered how big and what a global positioning satellite looks like, there it is. This satellite will find its way into a semi-synchronous orbit. So a semi-synchronous orbit means that the orbit takes about 12 hours, or about half of an Earth day, to do one rotation. Semi-synchronous orbits are in medium Earth orbit, and I mean that's where our global positioning satellite system is, the Navstar, which is the American version. There's the Russian version, which is GLONASS, and then there's the Europeans with the Galileo network, and then the Chinese with Beidou. But yeah, that's what a global positioning satellite looks like. It's launching on Falcon 9. Oh boy. Yeah, you're right. That's a Falcon 9 payload attachment fitting. You're right. SV-09 will launch on Falcon 9 1062.2. I forget, Eukerman. Maybe. I mean, firing a cardboard engine is something they would do in Russia, to be fair. I mean, maybe for fun, but not for their actual space program. Smuck. Look. We could say a lot of things about the Russians, but they definitely take their space program pretty seriously, or at least serious enough to not screw around with it, you know what I mean? Well, to an extent. Isn't a black cover bad for heating reasons? It depends. It depends on what you're shielding, to be honest. You have different thermal control. This part of the satellite might be in the satellite's final orbit. It might be because global positioning satellites are always pointed down towards Earth. This satellite could be pointed away, and that could be a part that you actually don't want to insulate. Or don't want to reflect heat. You want to absorb it to keep it warm. Remember, parts of the satellite might be in the dark because they're not in the sunlight. So it's not just about reflecting the heat and keeping the heat away. In the dark areas, you actually want the heat to stay there.
Discovery,
or
go
not.
at throttle up.
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find public info on it, but the people who told me about it are the people who let you do this. Yes, the Flex. Okay. Flex images are acceptable as sources. Bunch 33-month resub. China nailed it with the last launch. Yeah, Koseri, but it was a great launch, and I tip my cap to them in their success. But also at the same time, having unguided debris fall back to Earth is... Yeah, I have a problem with that. I think it waters down the achievement if you want... if you want my honest opinion. And I'm not saying that just because they're China and I'm American. No, that's nonsense. I'm really happy that they have a space station. That's cool. If anything, that's going to wake up people over here to do more space things, which is fine with me. As long as nobody starts shooting in space, I'm totally cool with friendly competition like that. That's fine. However, you have to be a good space environmental steward, and that's something that China has showed me over time that they really don't care about, and I have a problem with that. If that stage was going a meter a second slower, it would have come down over mainland Europe, and all it's going to take is you know, it landing in the wrong spot to light the powder keg off. We don't want that. Rockets that come down unguided and land unguided are called ballistic missiles for a reason, because they're unguided. They have to get guided re-entry under their belt, and don't get me wrong, they'll figure it out. It's China. They'll figure it out. I'm not worried, but can't do that. Can't do that stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, and once again, SpaceX did that the other day. They had a Starlink second stage that failed to deorbit, and it was unguided, and it re-entered over the northwest part of the U.S. out by Washington State. And everybody was like, oh, pretty colors. You know, look at all the pretty colors. And the Chinese stage, everybody's like, oh my God, it's a business. No, I'm calling it like it is. I don't like it when SpaceX do it. SpaceX does it, even though that was an accident. They didn't do it on purpose. But still, point still stands. We shouldn't have unguided debris coming back down to Earth. That's Bush League. And I don't know if you know what that means. It's amateur stuff. That's lame. That's not spaceflight. You can't really call the 30th satellites from Galileo a network. Okay. Yeah, the U.S. Kosari, the U.S. in the 60s launched a missile out of Cape Canaveral. Not a missile. It was a rocket that was going into space out of Cape Canaveral, and the stage... Now, keep in mind, this is the U.S. in the 60s. Okay, so think about what country is south of Florida. The U.S. launched a Thor missile out of Cape Canaveral that was sending something into space, and the first stage came down and killed a cow in Cuba. See what I'm talking about here? And then the Cubans said, what are you doing? Can you not do that, please? Hello? We're over here. And we said, oh, yeah, we probably shouldn't do that. It's probably for the best. So that launch corridor got banned. They banned launching rockets south. The Eastern Testing Range, which is the Air Force, said no one can launch south out of Cape Canaveral because your stage might come down in Cuba. And Cuba and the U.S. don't have a good history post 1959 of getting along. Yeah, it was only until very recently that they opened up that corridor again, and even then, you really got to watch your back. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think I need to say why unguided stages coming back down is a bad idea. That's really not smart. It waters down the achievement, and it sucks because it's a great achievement. I mean, not many countries can say they launched their own space station by themselves into space. There's only 3 countries that can say that. Russia, China, and the U.S., and that's it. It's a pretty awesome club to be a part of. And then they asked another guy to bring more rockets to Cuba. Ugh. Yeah, but Chem C, what people don't know is that you guys stockpiled freaking missiles in Cuba because we stockpiled missiles in Turkey. We still have those missiles there. A lot of people don't know that. They don't know that part of that story, you know? Our missiles are still there. They're still in Cuba. Or not in Cuba. They're still in Turkey. Guess where they're pointed? Like, hello? Like, they just conveniently leave that part of the story out. Like, hello? Oh, PY, they're everywhere. No, I know. What do you want, dude? Can we paint them? Not that type of thing. I wouldn't go near them, to be honest with you. They're pointing up. Right. We aren't supposed to know that. That ruins the story. Yeah, well. Hey, like I said, you gotta... Look, I try as hard as I can to call it fair, alright? I wouldn't... maybe Fistus, I don't know. Fun fact, my grandfather was in the Seabees in Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Yikes. Yikes. Turkey is in NATO. Cuba was not part of the Warsaw Pact. Yeah, John, that's another good point. That's another very good point. It was Thor Delta Aiden. That sounds right. Yep. If you're ever back in South Florida, please visit the abandoned Nike missile silos in the Everglades. It was super secret at the time. Tom, you know what my favorite thing about going to Florida is in terms of Cold War stuff? People don't understand that Orlando International has the call sign MCO. I mean, I'm sure on this stream, I'm sure you guys know why Orlando International Airport has the call sign MCO, but I'm not sure a lot of people know why it has that call sign. By the way, sent you a fun photo of the A-Pass on Atlantis. It's only a model. Why, Clayton? Really? Oh, alright. Well, EJ about to learn, you boy. Here, look. So, Orlando International Airport, dude. Orlando International Airport has the call sign MCO because it was McCoy Air Force Base. Orlando's airport is the executive. Orlando's original airport was the executive airport, which is it's now the executive airport. That was the big airport. And don't get me wrong, McCoy Air Force Base did have a civilian terminal. The old terminal for McCoy, because they did operate passenger services over here. Where is it? See this random parking lot? That's just, why is there a big frigging parking lot there? Well, there's a big parking lot here because that was the terminal for passenger flights out of McCoy Air Force Base. Now, another thing that's a dead giveaway. Well, here's the thing. Well, not a dead giveaway. Here's the thing about McCoy Air Force Base. See this thing over here? Can anybody tell me what this is, other than a bunch of triangles? That's cool, lols. Is that because of the mouse? Kind of. They're the alert pads. That's right. B-52s were stationed on these pads all throughout McCoy's tenure, ready to go, and then the ready room is right there. See that? That's the ready room. If you notice, the ready room, okay, there's something's funny about this. Something's funny about this. First of all, it's raised up about 20 feet off the ground. Second of all, there's passageways that go underground. It's because it's a reinforced fallout shelter in case the base gets nuked. Yeah, start looking at things. A little weird, right? So, the B-52s were stationed all here, and they'd be on standby to scramble if the Cold War got hot. And the pilots would stay in the ready room, and they'd run out here to their planes, jump in, and the planes would be fueled and ready to go. And then right up in the air, because getting your bombers in the air in the event the Cold War got hot would be very, very vital so you could retaliate. Because if all your bombers are on the ground with nukes, they ain't doing any good. And this was a ramp that led right to both of these runways here. McCoy Air Force Base was a Cold War Air Force base designed to nuke the trash out of Cuba if the Cold War went hot. That's what's cool about McCoy. And then you needn't look no further than at the entrance to Orlando International Airport to see why this base existed. Because it was carrying that thing. It was carrying these things. I think so, Jake. A cool piece of history, Velo. I don't like the idea of glassing people in a nuclear fire. I'm not really a fan of that, to be honest with you. Yeah, Jim, it is. You didn't know this. Well, there you go. This was all added retroactively. These two runways over here, if you want to look at the historical imagery, See, there's McCoy. And this is after it had been renamed to OIA. They started building the terminal here in '85. See that? But you could still see over here the ready room and everything, and why it's there. There's a very good reason. And then, yeah, the civilian terminal was down here. It's a parking lot now. Oh, where was it? It was over here. I think it was over here. I could have sworn it was right here, but this picture isn't right. Yeah, Barak, that's right. You should take a look at Kadena Air Force Base in Japan. You have to check that out. Where was this? I could have sworn the civilian terminal was right here. Hang on, let me look around. I don't want to get too off track. Maybe it was over here. But yeah, see that parking lot looks really bizarre. Like, why is that parking lot there? It's there's not, all the buildings that are around it have parking lots. Like, why would this be here? It's because it was parking for the original terminal when it was McCoy Air Force Base. I think it was here. I'm not sure though. It's long-term parking. Scooch left. Yeah. Is it over here? Was I wrong? Is it on the other side of the runways? Yeah, it may have been. Yeah, that might have been the original terminal. You're probably right. That definitely looks like it. Interesting. I could have sworn it was down here, Denny, but hey, it's alright. But yeah, you want some cool piece of history about Florida and the Cold War. That's a cool one. Go look at the new passenger drop-off area. I drafted the glass on the outside. Really, Willie? Passenger drop-off is... Oh, which one is it? South, okay. Orlando International, just side note, frigging huge. Big frigging airport. That's all the old pictures. Here, let's see if we can get an updated one here. This one was taken at the beginning of this year. Zoom out. Oh, this sucker. Willie, down here. Yeah, the new terminal that they're building. They're building Terminal 5, man. To the right. Wait, hold up. What's that? It's a train station S and a new terminal down at MCO. It's frigging ridiculous, man. Yeah, it's a train station. Check it out. This is a train track, and now keep in mind it's unfinished, but it goes down and taps. It's going to tap off over here into the pre-existing rail line. And you can see in Florida, like you can clearly see them playing cities here, so to speak. And then the tracks have the ability to be extended if they need to. They already built the bridges and stuff for the tracks to go north of OIA. Like this is like a commuter rail now. And then there's a shuttle that connects into the terminal, and it's a tram system that's similar to the original tram system up here that goes from there to there, only it'll take you from the train station to the main terminal. Track is going to lead to Miami. That's right. Florida's working on getting their commercial rail system up and running. It's not high-speed rail, but hey, it's progress. Go to the 3D. It's really cool. I don't think 3D works with these old pictures, dude. Yeah, the photogrammetry isn't up for the old stuff, but so Willie, we're talking about this stuff right here, right? Actually, a large part of that is high-speed rail. What's high? Define high-speed rail. How fast does it go? Oh, nice, Nikki. Yeah, there you go. What's the biggest airport in the world? Wolf, I forget if the biggest airport is still Atlanta. But if Atlanta isn't the biggest airport in the world, I know it's definitely in the top 5. Atlanta, what is this, Hartley-Jackson? It's frigging huge. I think Beijing is a bigger airport nowadays, but Atlanta's really big. Atlanta is the busiest, not the biggest. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Denver. Denver's a huge airport because there's nothing out there. 4 parallels. Yep. Denver is the biggest airport by surface area, but Atlanta is busy as hell. Look at all the terminals, man. Bing, 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 ding, ding. Like, there's so many. Chicago is big. Chicago's a big airport, too. Wasn't Denver also a SAC base? No. Denver International Airport was a scratch project. Before that, it was Denver Stapleton, and Denver Stapleton is over here. Or was over here. Die Hard 2 was filmed at Stapleton, which is pretty cool, if you like Die Hard. And yes, Stapleton, I think, was a ex-military base. What's that one in Asia that's built in the ocean? There's many of them, Mayor. Hong Kong International was built on reclaimed land. Kansai in Japan, in, Nagasaki? That was built on reclaimed land. There's a lot of airports in Asia that they just said, fill in over there and go. Look at Beijing. Okay, well, we're running out of time, guys, unless you want. I'll do it real quick, but this is the last airport we're going to look at. Oh, yikes. Yowza. What the hell is this? I mean, I can appreciate this, man. That's pretty hardcore. That is a big frigging airport. Holy crap. And these pictures, it isn't even completed. Do you believe all the conspiracy rumors around Denver? There's certainly some weird stuff going on with that, Willie. OIA Southern Complex. That's a big airport, dude. This road, is there supposed to be a road here? Yeah, but my farm's there, so? Okay. It's crazy. That's a big one. The terminal's really cool. Anyway. Let me see this, Willie. Let me take a look. That's cool that you drafted it. That's pretty sweet. Let's see. Most of the airports in England are... Yeah, of course, Geeson. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jake, there you go. Oh, that's... Dude. You drafted all this, Willie? That's awesome. Cool. I've noticed this a lot with contemporary architecture. How much glass do you want, fam? Yes. Oh, that's a cool building. I like it. It's supposed to look like a palm tree. Yeah, that's cool. It's supposed to... That's what those arches are for, right? The architect that design's supposed to look like a freaking palm tree. That's cool, man. Real neat. Hi, Matt. All right. I don't know who that is. Yeah, see? When you look at it from an angle, it looks like a freaking palm tree. That's cool. A flattened Sydney Opera House. Yeah, kind of. The Sydney Opera House, I believe, is similar, is it not? That horse, though. Yeah, there's some... Yeah, with Denver, there's some weird stuff going on, and I'm not going to sit here and claim like I know anything about it. The murals are a little bizarre. Anybody know about that? The murals that are at Denver International? That's a little weird. And the cornerstone for the building is also... What? And then the horse. The horse I can understand. It's supposed to... It's Lucifer. I get it. It's the Broncos. Like, you can figure that one out. I mean, it did kill the guy that made it, which is kind of strange. Also, yeah, 4 perpendicular runways. Like... Okay. What's the deal with Denver? Go look it up, John. I don't know about the buried superstructures, Jeep. I mean, There is a conspiracy theory that's out there that says that Denver is a fallout shelter. Like there's a fallout vault. Like literally like Vault 101, Fallout 3, like maintain an entire civilization down there underneath the airport. It's a huge conspiracy theory, and I don't know. It's an interesting read, I guess, if you want. But supposedly there's like miles of tunnels down there, like straight up a vault, like Greenbrier. If anybody understands that. What do you think about the C8? Love it. Great car. Yeah, for a secret society or something, like here. So, like, this is the cornerstone for DIA. Like, obviously there's a Masonic symbol on it, right? But also, the New World Airport Commission doesn't exist. That's not a thing. It wasn't a thing when the airport was made. It's not a thing now. It wasn't a thing then, which is really bizarre. The song for Denver, yeah. Yeah, the X-Files theme, nice. Yeah, something weird is going on there, and I don't know what it is, and I'm not smart enough to figure that one out. Yeah, it's something weird. Something weird. They put that on there for a reason. I just can't remember what it is. Yeah, and the murals. The murals are strange. I don't know what's going on here. But I'll be honest with you, this is not what I want to see when I'm in an airport. I mean, it's I know what that says. Nice. It's I don't understand what's going on here. You got to show the horse if you went this far. I'm really confused. Yeah, like I said, it's strange. The whole thing is just kind of... The whole thing is just kind of strange. Yeah, it's art. Art be art. Okay, fine. You want to see what they have standing at the entrance to the airport? Hey, Nutbuster. What are you guys smoking up there? Oh, wait. Yeah, that makes more sense now. Okay. All right, I got you. All right. Blue Rari. Yeah, the eyes glow. The eyes glow orange because of the Denver Broncos, which is, yeah. Yeah, it's... I don't know what they're doing up there. It's that mountain air. Yeah, it's a little weird. That's, like, I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, dude, isn't an airport supposed to be like comforting? I'm pretty sure that seeing those murals when you're about to get on a plane probably is the opposite of that. I get it, art. Yeah, like I understand that. It's, let's rise up, and people. I get it. I understand. Like I get it, but my thing is like somebody made the conscious decision somewhere of saying like, oh, yes, this is the art that I want in my airport. When people come to my city, I want them to see these murals. It's like, all right. That's the part I don't understand. I'm like, that, okay. Yeah, that's definitely a little weird. Yeah, fucking right. Actually, an airport is not supposed to be comforting. You don't want people hanging around there. Okay, I guess in that regard, that makes sense then. Maybe they don't want him to come back. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with Denver, but that's, it's a little strange. I'm not going to sit here and say that that's not a little strange, but also, Alright. Question, do you take an efficiency hit launching Polar out of the Cape? Back to space stuff. Yes. Because you have to dogleg. You have to launch southeast and then turn right and go south. You don't appreciate the Red Dawn art exhibit? Free screenings of the documentary Red Dawn! Ammunition! Remember, don't dial 911, dial 357! Ammunition, protecting your rights. Free screenings of the documentary Red Dawn. Such a good commercial in GTA. Oh my goodness. Alright, we'll cap off space news with this and then we'll go. Hey, Ismic. What's up, dude? This video is coming from our buddies over at NASA Space Flight. Mary's out there. Boca Chica Gal's out there every day shooting this footage. You know the drill. Go over there and give them a sub if you like what you see here. They allow me to restream it here, but they allow me to restream it here because we give them the subs over there. It's kind of a mutual thing going on here, so we have permission to look at the footage, but guys, make sure you go over there and give them a sub. And I wouldn't say that unless I absolutely meant it. You ever ask him about YouTube? No, not yet, drummer. Okay, so that's Super Heavy's forward dome for the first stage. You can tell that it's a Super Heavy first stage dome because of the way it has this kind of castle thing going on here. This is the mount point for the stage separation system, the thing that will push Starship away. That's what that's why it has this piece attached to it. Name of the channel. This is NASA Spaceflight. Here. Oh, Thomas already has the channel. Sure, guys, get a link. They have daily content and updates out of Boca Chica and live launch coverage and stuff all over the place. A good buddy of mine, Das or John, if you know him, is a producer over there, and he does one hell of a job. But he also, him and the Chris's and all the NASA Spaceflight crew over there allow us to look at this stuff here on the stream. We have permission to do it, which is pretty rad. That's pretty cool that they let me share this. So, like I said, go over there, support that channel if you can. Buy a shirt, buy a mug. And once again, you know how I feel about plugging things. And if you don't know me, I don't like doing that. This stream has no sponsors. I'm not getting paid anything from them or anyone. I pride myself on being fully independent and not really sponsored by any particular entity. So because I don't like advertising, to be honest. But I'll advertise NASA Spaceflight because this content is too good to ignore. Yeah, it seems like multiple push rods, RJ, but I'm not sure. So we have the 3 cranes over here. This is a Lever 1600-2 that's used for moving starships around. This one over here is a Liebherr 11,000, I have no idea what that crane's going to be used for. And then you have the Liebherr 11350 over here. The 11350 has a power boom attachment. If you notice, the boom on this crane's a little thicker than the other ones. The power boom attachment is designed for lifting really, really, really heavy things. SpaceX is using it to stack the fixed service structure, which is this truss segment over here. Or truss structure, I should say. Let's go scrub through. Yeah. So, see the second section right there? And this video is a couple of days old. That second section is sitting on top here. They lifted it yesterday. The big yellow crane was used to move Starship. Interesting. The LR 11000 was used to lift SN15 onto the transporter. Huh. Yeah, SN15 recently, they took it off Test Stand B and moved it back to the build site, which is about a mile that way from where this shot was taken. That kind of reinforces a running theory that I have, that we might not see another suborbital hop for a little while. I think SpaceX is pushing to finish their orbital launch pad. They need those orbital tests to test Starship's thermal protection system. And the third segment is sitting next to the tower right now for prep for stacking. Did SpaceX buy the cranes or did they rent them? Those 11,000 cranes, they've definitely rented them. The smaller stuff they bought. Anything with the SpaceX logo on it is a crane that SpaceX owns. Yeah, see? These are pieces of Starship's fixed service structure. The fixed service structure usually in rocketry, that nomenclature means any structure that basically doesn't move that's next to the rocket. So ground service equipment is what it's called in rocket nomenclature. Fixed service structure is a piece of ground service equipment. Ground service equipment in rocketry kind of naming conventions, I suppose, means anything that's used to launch the rocket that's not the rocket. So like this cryotank shell here at the propellant depot is a piece of ground service equipment. Even though this thing never gets near the rocket, this is for storing propellants that SpaceX wants to make on site. They don't just want to buy the liquid methane and the liquid oxygen for Starship from somebody because Starship is going to be flying a lot. They want to produce it on site, and that's what they're doing. Don't forget about your rents, yeah, right? What's your guess on how many orbital attempts till we get an orbital flight with a proper nominal landing? I'll have that answer for you by the end of the summer, LQ2. It could take some time. Hey, Rocket Guy. So the next flight will probably be the orbital one. That seems to be the direction that we're going. I've heard SN16 and 17 are going to get scrapped. And that's, keep in mind, that's just what I've heard. I don't know. That's unconfirmed. I don't know that for sure. That's just kind of the buzz that I've been hearing from just all of the people that report space around in the industry and stuff. So take that with a grain of salt. Once again, I don't know if that's going to happen. To be 100% honest, I have no idea. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'll wait. We'll just wait and see. It's kind of one of those things where I've heard this, but I can't prove if it happens, so that's why I say it like this instead of saying, yes, they're going to scrap 16 and 17. I have no idea, dude. I've been out of the loop with space news for 2 days now because I worked on Kerbal, and then so I had a day off, and then I worked on Kerbal on Monday and Wednesday. So like the SpaceX plan can change overnight, so I have no freaking idea. SN17 is already in the scrap pile. Well, there you go. What's your guess? Okay, I already answered that. 17 is no more, so that begs the question, what the heck are they going to do with 16? If my gut is telling me, Thomas, that 16 will probably get saved, or it'll get saved to either A, be put on a display stand, B, another test flight in the fall, another suborbital test flight in the fall, or C, it'll be scrapped. Who knows? Yeah, but SpaceX's plan is changing all the time. There's 16 there on the left inside of the high bay. Right now, through the grapevine talk, is SN16 is scrapped. Shame. Is SN15 going to be orbital? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Or repurpose 16 to become an orbital starship. Yeah, that could be a thing, Aiden. I have no idea. And they fully stopped working on 16 after 15 flew. Yeah, see, Thomas, I noticed that right away. That's what I mean. I had a gut feeling that something changed after SN-15 landed. Because they immediately stopped working on 16 and 17, right? So who knows? And what that plan is kind of comes more into focus from looking at this footage here. It's pretty clear to me that SpaceX is going balls in on the orbital pad, or all in, I guess. You could say balls in too if you want. It's kind of weird though. Yeah, they're going all in on building that orbital pad with heat shields. So who knows? And there's a guy with a hat. Work has been stopped on 16 for a while, and SN20 sections have been getting nearly completely covered in TPS. They're pushing for it hard. Ball State, mate. Yeah, that's a little inappropriate. Sorry about that. Like I said, I ain't perfect, man. I don't know what you want from me. There's the cryo shell. I'm not sure what they're doing there. They're rotating it, but I'm not sure why. They're going COPV deep. Do you know the diameter of this shell? It's bigger than Starship's diameter, Velo. Yeah, that's a little bit wider than Starship. So does the team working on the thermal protection system have to create any reports? Ooh. Yeah. I can't really comment on that right now. Yeah. So 12 meters, Da Vinci, for the cryo shells? Yeah. They're gonna vacuum seal it and have a 9-meter tank inside of that thing. At least I think they are. Yeah, there you go, that's sure. It's a giant vacuum sealed thermos for storing propellant, yeah. When will you go to Boca? I don't know. Maybe for the orbital launch attempt. Who knows? I'm really surprised they don't put Starship wires inside of that section to help load the thing for assembly. I'm sure that. Excuse me. I'm sure there's a reason, ma'am. I just frick all if I know what it is. Or a thermally insulated coffee mug. Yep. Apparently, the water tanks will be made using cryoshell parts. Makes sense.
Excuse me, Biggie.
Yeah, what's up?
Where bread pan?
Top shelf where the pizza sheets are.
You sure?
No.
My hero.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they're up there.
I couldn't see them.
Chat says hi.
Hi, Chad.
Alright, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Yeah, Aiden, give me 1 second, guys. I gotta go find the bread pan. You guys know those moments where you can't find something and it's right in front of you? There you go. They're known as your 40s wrecked. Oh yeah, the orbital launch table. This was another bit of news that We didn't see. We saw what we think is the hold down points for super heavy. I can never find my socks. EJ has mom searching magic. Altio, I worked in inventory control. Inventory control at a retail store means you know where everything is. So I kind of got into a habit of remembering where everything is. Yeah. Yeah, I do that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Why is it rusty? Because rust is protecting the steel. You mean this? Yeah, T-Man, that's exactly it. Thomas has it too. Yeah, this oxidization right here is totally fine. If it's thick steel like this, actually that oxidization forms a protective covering around the steel, preventing it from rusting even more. Don't get me wrong, if you see something that's metal that has rust on it, don't be like, well, it's fine for it. It's probably not. This stuff really only happens with super thick steel. And certain types of steel, to be honest with you. This is the type of steel you can let it oxidize a little bit, and all it's going to do is basically encase the good steel with an outside layer of oxidized steel, rust, and protect it. Yep. Can't rust anymore if it's already covered in rust. SpaceX is looking for inventory specialists, just saying. Yeah. I don't know if... maybe. Yeah, that's right, Jim. That's correct. Starship is made of stainless, I thought. That's not Starship, dude. That's the pad. The pad, no. You don't... I wouldn't make this out of stainless. It's not strong enough to hold up super heavy. You need to make that out of steel, my dude. Alright. Let's keep going. So that's the powerhouse with the electrical conduits. Over there. We know that that's the powerhouse because when they first started working on this pad, they buried a bunch of PVC pipes. And the PVC pipes come out basically right where all these electrical transformers are. So an electrical conduit in contracting is just a PVC pipe with wires in it instead of water. The Raptors lose. Imagine if they made the launch plate out of Inconel. It'd be expensive, but it would survive a lot. This is the mitochondrion of the pad. It's the powerhouse of the pad. Yep. Yeah, see the pipes are down here. See that line right there? They put the conduit pipes over there, and they put the PVC pipes in the ground before they ran any of the wires. I'm sure they're starting to run wires now, but they put those in the ground, and you can see they go over to here. There's some popping out right there. See that? Those are conduit pipes. And then they put the irrigation in first, too. They put a lot of irrigation in there. And then they started pouring concrete for the GSE mounts over here. Render of the hold down points installed. Okay. Yeah, we'll have to... I'll show the RGB picture as well. So, these GSE mounts here look like starships. So for the folks that don't know, SpaceX is just using the same assembly line that they use to make starships to make the fuel tanks on the launch pad to store fuel for Starship. It's literally leftover... Well, not leftover. These are Starship parts. The fuel tanks that... Like, basically how we do it in KSP, I have fuel tanks on the sides of my pad that are rocket parts that I feed fuel into the rocket, which is also rocket parts. SpaceX can afford to do that because they're using stainless steel here. Now, you wouldn't be able to do this with something like Falcon 9. Falcon 9 is made out of aluminum and lithium. It's an aluminum-lithium alloy. You don't want to leave that outside. Ask any aircraft mechanic why that's a bad idea. Aluminum corrodes. Stainless steel does not. At least this type of stainless steel, I'm pretty sure, it doesn't rust. It just doesn't corrode. It's just there. So SpaceX has the unique scenario of being able to manufacture the ground service infrastructure on the same assembly line as the non-ground service equipment, which is pretty cool. Stainless does rust over time. Yes, it does, but it takes a long time. Fun fact, an electrical conduit cannot be filled more than 80%. Electrical code. Nice, nice. Cool, I didn't know that. Have they shown how they married the launch tower together? I didn't see any bolting plates. I gotta go find some footage. They have guide gussets up there, Goalie, too. And it's like when they crown Starship, when they stack the rings, they have those little, like, things that look like teeth on the inside that guide it on like a funnel, almost. That's how they did it there. It will rust faster on the welds. Yeah, Max. Yeah, I mean, that depends on what type of stainless steel you're using and what type of welding you're using for that stainless steel. No. I think they weld these guys here and then bolt it, Goalie, but I'm not 100% sure. They have even switched an SN21 dome to be used for the BIA Booster Service Equipment 5 to get the pad tanks ready. Interesting. Yeah, Goodyear, that's a little weird. All right. Can you remind the Friday night racing drivers to visit the AC Important Links section in Discord and react and vote on the poll? Go to the AC Important Links section and vote on the poll for what we're racing this weekend. GSC 5. Yeah, okay, Thomas, I got you. Can I go back to that real quick? Yeah, see, these are, they have some scaffolding here mounted to the tower. This is temporary stuff. All this stuff right here, it's all temporary. They have these here, so when they go to crown this, when they go to put something on top of this, you can see the guide pieces right there. And they have it so people can stand next to it and guide the thing in place when the crane lifts it up. Yeah, there's your scale. Look at the guys. Look at the guys walking around up there on the scaffolding. The newest video shows them installing the segment. Yowza, that's a big crane. So each one of these counterweights here that has the red triangle on it is about 22,000 pounds, 10,000 kilograms, so 10 tons. So keep in mind, the guy has two saddles on either side, and then a saddle extension coming off the back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's 12 on each saddle here. So that's 24. That's 24 or 240,000 kilograms. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Heavy. He's running almost 500. Well, no, he's running 500,000 pounds of counterweight. That should tell you how heavy the thing is. Oh yeah, there's more counterweights down here. Yeah. Curious when KSP will start. Just asking so I can come back. I don't want to miss any live action. I gotta catch up on Space News, Duber. So I don't really have a start time for you, bud. It's probably gonna be within the next 30 minutes if I had to put a time on it, but today I wanted to get caught up with this stuff, dude, so I can crunch for Friday and Saturday with today, Friday, and Saturday. Oh yeah, power boom, man. Crazy. All right, let's go over to the next video. I just want to see the footage of them moving this thing. This is the last video we'll watch. We should be caught up enough after this. The weights at the bottom is car body weights, and it makes it bottom heavy. They're a lot heavier than the other weights. Crazy. Yeah, that's nuts, dude. I mean, the reason why I point out the counterweights and stuff is to give you approximates, because the crane has to be heavier than the thing that it's lifting. So that should tell you how heavy one of those things is. One of these segments. It's, yeah. Pretty big. There's the cryo shell that we watched them attach right there. What's the whole crane? 1,000 tons? It's somewhere up there, Infi. Yeah, it's heavy. That's a heavy freaking crane. How you can tell? You could. Not you could tell. Like, it's not that you could get a number from this, but you got to look at the ties. The crane, the crawler cranes, they put them on pieces of wood to help spread the load around because the thing's heavy. They don't want it sinking into the ground. So they put it on pieces of wood called ties, like railroad ties for a train track, but they're a lot wider. The more ties they have, the heavier that thing is. Like, you can tell a lot just by looking at it here. I mean, this is the 11,350. We were looking at the 11,000 before. This guy is running more counterweight. He has way more counterweight. There's not so much a lot of counterweight here on the saddles right there, but there's an extension going back here in a wagon. See that right there? He has way more counterweight, way further away from the pin, which is the rotating point on the crane. Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of counterweight, man. Any estimate on how much that total crane cost? If you have to ask, you probably can't afford it. No, Revel, it's expensive. Let's say it's a long-term investment for the people that bought the crane. The segments to extend the crane arrived at the launch pad today. Cool. They're modifying the nose cone test stand. Oh yeah, this is a new Starship piece. And you can see all those dots that are on it right there? Those are the attachment points for SpaceX's hexagonal tiles. So, yeah, that's going to have a lot of tiles on it. The nose cone test stand will now be used for BN2 cryo testing. Cool. Yeah, Dave, I'd say that's pretty fair comment. Alright. Yeah, baby. Look at this freaking thing. Look at this, man. That is nuts. What's the name and model of the cranes? The one that's lifting this smuck is a Liebherr 11350 with a power boom attachment. The cranes are like Lego kits. They're configurable. So this crane, the 11350, doesn't always have a power boom attachment. But yeah, this one with the power boom is designed for super heavy lifting, like that. Is that tower going to have an elevator? There's an open square area where that stairwell is going through. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to have one. Not pretty sure. Yes, it will. So they have a flange plate here on the jig. This piece right here is the jig that they built this segment on. And there's a guy using an industrial impact gun to take the bolts out off the jig so they can lift it. They welded a big flange plate right there. And it's on the four corners. They basically just welded a plate to the wood to the jig, and they're using that to hold everything in place. Because the first thing you got to do here when you're constructing these is put the four posts down, and then you put the rest of this together. Those are the blocks of the pad tower. Yes, this is the fixed service structure, Rev. It's huge. It's freaking huge. So the SN15 was put on this and transferred back to the build site today. Do you know what company is contracted to build the tower? No, I don't, Max. Yeah, 15 was put on that thing, and then they moved 15 back. Let's just blaze through this quick. Holy crap, dude. Hold on. Yep, guys moving more counterweights. Dude. Look at the people. Look at the guys that are standing up there to get your scale, man. Oh, look at the little baby crane. That's cute. Libra's everywhere, Lunprod. Them and Manitowoc, their cranes are all over the place. So is Grove. Their cranes are friggin' everywhere. I saw a Grove crane today when I was driving in Boston. That face when the hook attachment for the crane is as big as a pickup truck. Seriously, look at the hook on this power boom crane comparatively to the people. It's unreal how big this stuff is. It's just a scale that you don't get. It's oh, that's so freaking cool. Grove is Manitowoc, just a rebrand? Oh, today I learned. Over here you see a lot of Mammut cranes, yeah. I said that right, LTO? I'm pretty sure I did. Pulleys, am I right? Yeah, right. There is an elevator installed just like the high bay. Got it, Thomas. Close enough. I'll take it. Oh, he's moving with that payload attached. Holy crap. Guys, that's a 3-story building being suspended in midair. Seriously, look at it. Look at it next to the freaking people. That is insane. Dude, that's so ridiculous. Oh my gosh. Like, and don't get me wrong, I understand the physics, what's going on here. It's still ridiculous to see. How many of those blocks do you think they're going to have? Yes. No, I think it's 5 or 6, if I'm remembering right. Has to move because he can't tilt with this weight. Yeah, I wouldn't. You got to keep the payload close to you, right? That is so nuts, dude. Oh, man. Just use Kerbal Labor to align it into play. Just trying to guide it with their hands. Well, they have the tagline. See these things right here? These are guys on the ground that are pulling it in the direction that these guys are telling them to. See? They're all pulling it to get it aligned, and then once it's all aligned with the taglines, then this guy will let it, the crane operator will let it down. Yeah, Dave, I'd be a little uneasy. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like this, like I wouldn't be like, eh. Humans are pulling these cables? That's right. Dude. Look at the goalie. So they're bolting them, it looks like. They're bolting them together. That flange plate is huge. Dude, you could shoot a 50 BMG at those plates and it'll bounce off. I mean, that's straight armor plating. Like, that's how thick that freaking plate is. It's probably good 2 to 3 centimeters, like about an inch. Ah, pick it up, it's on my foot. Oh, there would be no foot left, Tom. You use your foot? Yeah, say bye-bye to that. Crane's max capacity is 1,350 tons at a 12-meter radius. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty big crane. That's one of the bigger cranes. You won't see a bigger lattice crawler than that. That's one of the biggest. There's like 2 or 3 models of crane that are bigger than that thing, which is nuts. What else do they do? They'll probably... No, I don't know if they'll pour cement down their spots. You don't need to... So, like, the thing about a skyscraper, dude, is that you generally want your center of mass to be kind of low. You want your center of mass on the whole skyscraper to be down here by the foundation. It keeps it nice and stable. I doubt they'll pour concrete down these. They'll probably bolt them on that plate and then weld it into position. Bolts and welds, because this thing... Dude, if this thing does what SpaceX says it's going to do, it's quite literally going to grab a rocket out of the air. This thing is gonna... Elon has said that this thing's gonna have arms on it that grab Super Heavy. Super Heavy will just hover next to this thing, and they're gonna grab the thing and then place it back down onto the pad, which is, yeah. That's nuts. So yeah, this thing needs to be really strong. This is by far and away one of the beefiest fixed service structures we've ever seen. It's not even close to the fixed service structures and the launch umbilical towers for SLS, Saturn V, the shuttle. This thing is way beefier than that. Like, way beefier. Nothing even comes close. The launch tower is 2 in 1. Crew access tower, drummer, and the catch device. I'm pretty sure that's what SpaceX... That's the tentative plan. Yeah, freaking catch tower. Exactly, Cristiano. You want the concrete to be down here. Whoa. Yeah, they want to freaking grab the booster. That, now, guys, I'll be honest with you. If you guys had chosen the Constellation option, I was going to try to land boosters back on the pad. I was going to try to do it. Can't do it with the SSDO, but the SSDO lands on the runway, which I do appreciate. That's what I wanted to try. How are the foundations on that? Right? The foundations on this thing go about 100 feet down that way. You're in wetlands here, so you have to get down to something solid for the building to be able to grab onto, or else it's just going to move around in the sand and the mud. When you build in wetlands, you have to drill down to the bedrock, or at least into the thick sand. And depending on where you are, that could be 50 to 100 feet down. So 30 to 40 meters? Or no, 20 to 30 meters? No, it's more like 30 to 50, something like that. It depends. I don't know what it is in the Rio Grande Valley, but I know that the foundations for the pad legs and the service structure are 100 feet that way, so I'm willing to guess that bedrock's about 100 feet straight down. I wonder how it's going to be foundation and crane-wise when building an offshore launch site. Well, they're converting oil rigs, Chris, so they know something about stabilization because it's an oil rig, so... Yeah, I'm not gonna try. Rev, Super Heavy's gonna come back down, and I'm serious. The service structure will have, from what I understand, the service structure is gonna have 2 huge grabber arms that the Super Heavy will come down and it'll just hover there for a second, and then the thing will just grab it by the throat, I guess. Like, they ain't grabbing it by the throat of the rocket engine, but yeah, that's what I've been hearing. Which is, all right. Catch it in midair. Yeah, they're gonna catch it in midair, and then the arms will be able to move down. They'll translate down the structure. They'll be on vertical rails, right? And they'll translate down, and it'll place Super Heavy back onto the launch table, which is just. All right. Yeah, which is just, oh, sure. Okay. That's, if you're skeptical of that, I don't blame you. That is going to be very difficult to do. Not impossible. Not impossible. Just difficult. Yeah, Ren. Mm-hmm. And the catch tower is the only way they are planning on getting it back. Yeah, speaking of catch tower and hold down clamps, RGV Aerial, which is Rio Grande Valley Aerial Photography, a guy pays a pilot to take him up, and he takes pictures of the launch site from the air. He took pictures here of the building site and said launch table with these, I guess, hold down points for Super Heavy. I guess that's what these are. There's going to be 20 of those arms, which will most likely hold down something that's connected to the 20 Raptor mounts since it's reinforced there. I would guess these are attached to the ring, Thomas. The ring is the outer ring of Starship, the engine flange, the engine section, outer skirt is what I would be attaching to. That's just me though. Will the booster help lower itself after the arms grab it? No, Tweets. That's not what Elon has said, at least from my understanding of it. And you have to go look at what he's saying on Twitter. So WD-40. So this is the tower, right? My arm is the tower, and here's the catch, right? Rocket comes down, hovers for a second, tower grabs it, engines shut off, and then it just lowers it back down onto the table, which is... It sounds crazy, but so did the flip up until they did it. Yeah, yep. How did they get that forklift in there? A big crane? Yeah, they're trying to grab it by the grid fins, which makes sense, Phil, because the grid fins are already structurally reinforced to resist aerodynamic loads. The question is, do those aerodynamic loads exceed the load that would be exerted on them if they hung it by the dang grid fins? Now, if I had to guess, some SpaceX engineer or Elon himself probably noticed that the aerodynamic loads from the hypersonic grid fins are somewhere in line with the loads of an empty booster being held up by them. Yeah, probably. I mean, it's probably something like that. When I made Kraken Tech grid fins in KSP, you had to really reinforce those hinges. Those hinges had to be really strong to be able to take the So what happens is the grid fin is like this. This is the side of the rocket. Air is coming at this thing, and it makes the grid fin want to do that, right? And the grid fin is on basically an axle that allows the grid fin to move like this, right? And the aerodynamic forces would bend the entire thing, and a tremendous load would be put on that axle. You had to really reinforce it. That's from my experiences with making custom grid fins in KSP. And I get it, KSP is not real life, but also, it's not real life, yet here we have Elon saying that they're going to catch that thing by the grid fins. And I know from messing around in KSP that area of the rocket needs to be reinforced to be able to handle those loads. So who knows, dude? That was Neptune that I made custom grid fins with. I'm pretty sure they calculated the strong points for that. I think getting the landing precisely enough is the biggest challenge. Infi, I'm going to go ahead and agree with you on that one. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're going to need some big grid fins to support 28 Raptors. Green, they're about the size of a Super Duty pickup truck. We've seen them. Oh, yeah. They're around. At least we've seen prototypes. They're about the size of a Super Duty, an F-350 Super Duty with a dually. Yeah, it's about that big. That's right, Nutbuster. Mm-hmm. Crazy. Yeah, look, it kind of... So, there's the main hinge right there. There's the hold down, and the hold down points on the inside of the table, they move inward and they move out. So I'm guessing that you're going to have a huge ball joint and a hydraulic that anchors to the outside of this thing that moves this thing back and forth. And that was only part of the grid fin. Yep. What's the size of a 350 dually? It's gigantic. It's a freaking huge truck. That thing. The grid fins are about as big as that. Yeah, they're huge, Smuck. They're gigantic. Also... Nice. I mean, look at that. Tows. You can put a fifth wheel on this thing and just tow a trailer if you want. It's basically a semi-truck. Oh yeah, Sevi, right? One thing I learned from KSP is that the center of lift should be below the center of mass. How will Starship deal with that with those massive flaps in the upper stage? You can compensate, Velo. You can use the gimbal on the Raptor engines to compensate for the offset aerodynamics, or you could fold the fins up when it goes to launch. You can have center of pressure above your center of mass, or center of lift above your center of mass with a rocket design, and compensate using a gimbal. A gimbal is an effective force that can compensate for the aerodynamic load being exerted from a high center of pressure. If the moment from the Raptor engine's gimbaling outweigh or is more force than the load exerted on the vehicle from high center of pressure aerodynamics, yeah, it'll fly just fine. Atlas 5 501 is a really good example of that. Now, the reason why in Kerbal you don't want to do it is because, well, we fly them, not a computer. There's a reason why they can do it in real life and we can't do it here. But take a look at this version of Atlas V. That's an Atlas V 501. It's a 5-meter fairing with a single core. No SRBs, no nothing. The RD-180 is enough to compensate for that high center of pressure. Hey, Atlanta Gas, 47 viewer raid. Thank you very much. Ryan's link, show them this. Yeah, this is a render from Neopork. Check it out. Yeah, that's the size that we're talking about here. They're not small. Atlanta Gas, what's up, brother? How you doing? Yeah, pretty big, but it's cool to see the launch infrastructure come together. Anyway, guys, it's time for KSP. Yeah, dude, like I said, this is infrastructure on a scale that our brains aren't used to seeing that. Chillin', bro. Sweet, man. What were you up to? All right, anyway, it's time for KSP. Let's do this. I had to do a little bit of a longer space news today because we had to catch up. I had to catch up on the news because I'm interested. So we're going to get into doing our test flights here now, and then we'll go. Okay, so this is new SSTO design test flights mission mode part 153. Yeah, you're doing GTA RP? Hell yeah, man, that's cool. Right on.